We are live.
All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local Americans. Number one political hip hop radio talk show. Well, listen, y'all. Y'all know that if it is the third Friday, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know it is time for the Mayor's Forum with our beloved brother, the one and only Mayor Raz J. Baraka, the people's champ, always punching above his weight. I think the mayor might be back trying to get in the gym now that he got his 2 shots, so he feel a little safer getting back in there to work. I don't know if that's true, but I'm gonna ask him. Because I want to get back in the gym myself.
All right, I'm back here.
If that's the antidote to get back in, I'm gonna ask him about that one. So y'all know that he's up first, and then of course coming up tonight, y'all know that we're gonna talk to all the candidates that are running in the Newark School Board election here in our beloved city of Newark. We're going to talk to all of them and give them an opportunity to express themselves so that we can encourage all of y'all to get out to vote next week. It is extremely, extremely important. Y'all know that, we are now in control of our own school system. So it's important for us to make a decision about who we want to control the school board and make those kind of decisions around funding. So we really want y'all to pay attention tonight and feel free to ask them any questions y'all want to. And then of course, we're going to, get into some conversation with our beloved brother, the one and only DJ Rhino. He's got a lot that's going on in hip hop. I'm especially going to talk a little bit tonight with our brother John, particularly about Puff's involvement in New York politics, as well as Jay-Z and Nas. They're getting heavily involved in the mayoral race in New York. I'm not sure if y'all know that, but some folks hit me up this week in regards to, putting something together with them on the show. So to talk about that. So it'd be interesting to have all 3 of those brothers, Nas and Jay and Puff together, and then, sort of talk to them about why they're making such a big foray into the mayoral race in New York. So that's going to be an interesting conversation to get into and probably bring them on the show. Mm-hmm. So without further delay, of course, y'all know this is not my show. This is the Mayor's Forum. This is where he get a chance to let his hair down. I'm sorry, the man ain't got no hair.
Wow.
Because I ain't got no hair. And John, you ain't got no hair.
Not a little bit. Not even a little.
So we can't let out
I got left is gray.
He's the only one that's holding on to some measure of some hair. But I think you need to just go on and let it go. But listen, we're gonna go on and give it to the mayor, and whatever the mayor want to talk about, we'll talk about. We're gonna do our best though to keep it as black as possible. Mayor, it's all yours, my brother.
Thank you, man. It's always a pleasure to be up here with you guys, man. It's get a chance to talk about some things that we don't normally get to talk about all of the time. Just this Derek Chauvin case is coming to an end. They're doing their closing remarks starting on Monday. I know everybody has been talking, at least law enforcement agencies, political leaders all over the country have been talking about, just preparing for what the worst. And it's interesting that most people that you talk to, even in law enforcement, believe that the case is clear, but they still have doubt, just like we have doubt, which is interesting to me. That don't nobody believe that this thing works, right? So,
well, that's because we always have these flashbacks.
They know it works for them.
I remember back in 1990. I remember back in the early 90s, right? I remember seeing Rodney King in the pictures, and I was like, "Yo, they finally got him on video. They're definitely going to be convicted now." I said that they're definitely going to be.
They did the Simi Valley smoke screen and said, "No, we're going to take care of our guys."
Yeah. I mean, you listen to the commentators, the lawyers, everybody talks about how the prosecution has made a very clear case, and really, the other guys have been throwing stuff against the wall, just trying to create doubt in one person's mind.
Right.
So everybody is, and they know they're just bracing themselves because they know that they got to get this right.
They just ought to.
Even Pat Robertson chimed in.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
You know,
he must have got hold of some of that good new legal medicinal marijuana.
You know this guy needs
to the right side.
You know he need to go to jail with Pat Robertson.
Hey, man! I heard what's that guy on Morning Joe? Listen, man, I heard him this morning. He said that he was talking about how powerful Pat Robertson is at 91, right? Yeah. And he was talking about how all these white folks who are retired down in Florida, all who may have not have been paying attention to what was going on, but when Pat Robertson talked about it, all of a sudden, all these white folks are now paying attention to what's going to happen, with this verdict.
That actually might be a good thing. In as much as the white right wing has been so arrogant and active and violently so of late, it might make them calm down for a minute if somebody of that prominence in their ranks is breaking ranks and saying this should go another way. And that's, I'd never dream I'd live to see a day where I'd be like saying that Pat Robertson actually did something good that I could agree with.
Yeah, well, this thing, listen, anything liable to happen these days, brother. I was down in D.C. and listened to the president say that violence was a public health issue. So I thought I was going to fall out my chair. and that they need to give money to violence interrupters and through base intervention and all this stuff. I was like, wow. I was getting castigated for saying all that stuff.
How about that? How about that? We were talking out the side of our heads and we would start at that mess. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
abused.
So, Mayor, how did that feel? Like, what's going on with that? Because I remember when I read that, when I heard about that, I thought of Newark. I thought of all the stuff you're doing. I thought of all the anti-violence coalition. I thought about Chirac and Yale and the conversations we had. It all came back to stuff that you and people around you have been doing for years. Tell me about what was that moment like?
Decades. So, I mean, it was refreshing. I didn't think that, I didn't go there expecting that, I expected them to give a regular, gun reform speech and, rail against the right and the NRA. And they did that. And but they also said that, violence cannot be solved by the police alone. And to me, that's a shift. Right. And so we got to ride this shift. So I came back and convened all of the people that I knew in law enforcement and had a meeting with them this morning and told them what the president said. Right. And then, I had Larry in there. Larry spoke. I mean, he destroyed the place, man. Holy smoke. I don't know if them people.
Yeah, I told him don't go in nice.
Lord have mercy. He broke the place down. And after he finished speaking, I said, you know what, that was completely appropriate, and it was the benediction. So, but he that was, we got to ride this moment. That's what I'm saying. And the money that's available, that money needs to be coming to communities like this one to try to reduce violence and crime, by community initiative and community involvement. And we have to do it right. And that's what I was saying. We have to do it right because the cities that get that money, the full right-wing crew is going to be in there trying to prove that it was a waste of money and it shouldn't have went there. So we have to do it right and get it right and put our heads together and stop being in silos and make this a concerted effort to get in our community and give people what they need.
And I would say that's where the two questions intersect. Being concerned, being ready about what can come out of this case in Minnesota and what that can mean in other cities, right? In terms of people's responses, in terms of being disciplined or reckless, right? And what communities like ours need to have in place to keep the peace when you're in a position to keep the peace. And we have evidence of how that works here in Newark in the aftermath of Maurice. I'm saying Maurice Gordon because Maurice Gordon was right before George Floyd. We had the big protest here when that group broke off and tried to go to the precinct and start some mess. Our folks were in place.
Right.
This is not Minneapolis. This is Newark.
Right.
Conditions are objectively different, and our people do not want to do that, and we're not going to stand here and let you do that.
Yeah.
And it made a difference.
Yeah, it did. And
Exhibit A.
Yeah. And all of it is related, and that's why I was telling them today that all of it is related. Allow the community to help reduce violence and crime. And the police, the less interactions the police have with the community, the better.
That's right. That's right.
And we have to have a robust interaction with the community ourselves.
Right.
I mean, there's obviously some things that happen that people want the police to be involved in, but in a general sense, the community ought to have the resources and the infrastructure to be able to police our own neighborhoods and take care of what's going on in our own community and provide the services that we need to provide and give us the resources to do that. And I think that's basically what that means, and be a partner with us around that. And I think that we have an opportunity to lay that out here because we have players that are interested in doing that. We have key people on both sides that are ready to make those transitions. So that's a good thing.
That's it.
You know what's interesting is that, I remember one of the last rallies, Zaid and the mayor, y'all gonna remember this. One of the last rallies that Amiri participated in. And mayor, you was on the council at the time, man. When we
and provide the services that we need to provide and give us the resources to do that.
One of the last rallies that.
Feedback.
Yeah.
John, we good?
It sounds good now.
Okay, so when we were downtown, and shut off Broad Street. Remember, man, when you all were running around, maybe 10 years ago, the mayor shutting down the street and all of that and saying violence was a public health emergency. Remember all of the feedback people were giving, just by y'all using that term, which is amazing to me, man, that it takes this long for people to fund, something that Black folk who are fighting on the ground that know what the hell is going on in order to change the conditions. Think about it. What's going on in our community, man, isn't always like you just said. It's not always a police issue. There are other issues that are going on, man. I remember Street used to always say all the time, about, if we had the money, we could solve some of the problems that need to be solved, right? We could have saved some of the lives that needed to be saved. And of course, what it takes in a very real way is it takes the kind of leadership, particularly the kind of Black leadership like yourself, man, a brother who understands what's happening in the community, in the street, in order for that change really to happen.
Yeah, and understand the dialectics of all of this. People try to use these kind of contradictions to destroy what we're trying to do and belittle the movement. Like, so every time the police do something they don't have no business doing, people start uplifting the idea that Black people are killing people in our community and so forth and so on, to use that to kind of neutralize what's going on. And we can't let that happen. We have to understand that all of these things, both things, are happening because of the same system. And though both of those things are happening because of the same system, they need even the treatment to fix that fundamentally might be the same, but there's some specific things that need to happen in both places. And they're not mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive, right? People believe because you fight for anti-violence in your community that, you can't be against police brutality, or that because you're fighting against police brutality that you shouldn't say nothing about the anti-violence in your community. That's just not true. As a matter of fact, both of those things are related.
Right.
And you ought to be talking about both, right? Because of the lack of resources and the over policing, right. Because that's their answer to poverty, to inequity, is over policing.
Right.
Militarizing the community. Absolutely. He looked like he froze.
The other things that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last things that you said were frozen out a little bit, Mayor. I think that the last few sentences. I think you're back though. But what you're saying was really important in terms of just like, you know, how people try to play and over police our communities. What is the response of police officers around the country that you talk to? Not even just here, but I know you talk to. I know that you're in touch with law enforcement and that issue around the country and areas where you go.
Fundamentally, the police believe you shouldn't be getting me. A lot of police officers and agencies believe that you shouldn't give money to these organizations. They're not completely there yet. They don't believe that, right? They don't believe that, you know, money should go to the hospital intervention, you know, community street team, the anti-violence coalition, the hub. They don't think all of that because they don't think it works. And at the base of it is really racism. People believe that people behave this way and act this way because it's some kind of genetic defect. Yes. Because we're just violent, and that's what it is. Because if you identify the causes of it, then you have when you say violence is a public health issue, then it means that there's a cause to it, right? That something is creating this is a cause, like any disease
coming in from somewhere. Where's it coming from?
That's right,
and hit it off. Once you identify it.
That's right.
That can be quite telling when it shows that. In many of these cases, some of these guns are coming into our community, coming in from corrupt law enforcement, bringing in across state lines, trying to hustle and make some money in ways that they need not be doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, ultimately, it identifies the place-based issues that exist, like what's going on in these communities that's different than other communities. I mean. There has to be something when every community in America that looks like ours have these same specific problems. Either it is a epidemic, a public health crisis, or the racists are correct. And I tend to believe that it's a public health crisis, right? And so that's what you go back and forth with these folks. And so we provide a remedy to that by engaging our own community. By creating opportunities for community groups to help reduce violence and crime in the neighborhood, and police the police at the same time.
Yeah, and here's the thing, man. You know, I mean, we've done that kind of work right in our community for free. What's crazy, man. I can remember, man. Right, like. Anxiety,
where you going? Come on.
You know, you gonna remember this, right? Mm-hmm. I can remember, man, doing all that work for free, shutting down all the streets, going to, you know, different political, you know, events in the city, man, you know, and you know, saying, you know, we need to bring some attention to what was going on. And you remember, man, it was like at one year we damn near had like 150 murders in the city. You know what I mean? And you know, and we out there in the street and everybody trying to do what they need to do. Y'all shutting down streets and doing all of that. And I think about the number of lives we could have been able to save, man, you know, had folk just understood what the reality was in the Black community and listened, right, to the voices of the people who were on the ground trying to make it happen, man, which is amazing to me, man. You know, I mean, that's a real frustration for me, man. That's, you know, and man, the other part to that is like almost like when y'all were running, you know, when I say y'all, meaning you and Lauren Wells, when y'all were over at Central, when you were the principal and them young brothers and sisters, she told us this story, man, about, you know, how the kids would be having issues in class and, you know, y'all had to discover that, yeah, maybe the kids wasn't failing, but, you know, these kids were having issues seeing the board. But it took y'all to be able to recognize that these kids could actually do well. We just have to look at what are some of the social problems they have and try to solve it.
Yeah. And I want people to get the time to get lost on people because, you know, there are a lot of things that are happening now because of, you know, the people, community pushing back, raising these issues. I mean, there's states that are passing new laws. Maryland has passed a comprehensive police reform bill. New Jersey is looking at the CCRB. All over the country, these things are happening. The Congress has bills that they're trying to get through. You know, all kind of mayors are meeting all over the country. The National League of Cities is convening, which I'm a co-convener of reimagining policing. Mayors and elected officials all over the country are trying to figure out how to, transform police agencies, build them from the ground up, all of this stuff that would never even been thought of if it wasn't. So it's not just the murder of George Floyd, it's all of the protests and the activism that took place after that creates the moment. And then all of the people in these offices and other places that respond to that to create the things that we need to create, right? Because in and of itself, the killing is not enough, right? Because people we've been getting killed for a long time,
right?
It's the organizing that matters, right? And how we organize and what we push, because ultimately the idea is to transform things and make life better for people. And sometimes we forget that because we're in the midst of the struggle and we think the struggle is about the struggle, right? The struggle is not, we're not struggling for the sake of it, right? It's not for the struggle itself. We're struggling for outcomes for a new world, right? For a transformative place, for material conditions to change. That's what we need, people's material conditions to change, and so that's what we, and so all of that has to be connected, and we have to see that when we're fighting, that there's an end goal to this. Like we're not. My mother used to say, some people make a choice to be activists. Some people don't have a choice.
Right.
So you born in it. Is you get slapped, you're going to slap somebody back, and that's basically what it is. Like, and so at some point we have to figure out how to strategize to win.
And what does that entail, right? Like, you're talking about in this moment where Joe Biden was just like, he declared violence as a public health issue, right? Like, so when you're talking about strategizing to win, what does that mean now? And there are a lot of people listening saying we shouldn't get involved in politics, we can't use the state. But you have a situation where the United States federal government said something that you've been fighting for years, people, activists in Newark have been fighting for years.
That doesn't make it sounds contradictory to people, but it's not a contradiction. When they take your tax money, you are supporting the state, right? When all the things that you do, when you buy a home, when you purchase goods and services, the clothes that you wear on your back, all of these things, right? And so you just have to be clear about what it is that you're doing and where you are, what your position is, and what you're fighting for, and begin to transform things. I think that quantitative change causes qualitative change. I believe that. So at the end of the day, you have to fight to make as many changes as you can until the system is not the system anymore, right? Until it's other than that.
What does that mean? You said qualitative change leads to quantitative change. What is that?
Quantitative change. Like, for example, if you turn heat up on water, the water ceases to be liquid and it turns into steam. That's a quantitative change that is causing a qualitative change, right? So if you reduce the temperature, it turns to ice. And so at the end of the day, the work that we do here to change what's happening, has to be a fundamental change ultimately, but you have to keep making changes. It's protracted. You keep making changes until it gets to a point where it's completely transformed, right? That's what you have to do, short of of a complete total event that just turns everything upside down. But we've been waiting for that for centuries. So I think that those who struggle just have to be clear that while things are not where they need to be, they're certainly not where they were, and we need to continue to push and push and push until we get to a place, where we are comfortable. And I don't think that happens like tomorrow, right? I believe that we do our part, whether it's transforming the legal system, transforming the educational system, transforming the political system. There are a lot of things that need to change, right? I mean, the police departments need to be overhauled, reimagined. I agree with that, but that's not the end. That's not the end. Some people are fighting for that. I understand that, but that's not the end. Our fight is not with the police. And that's what I believe, right? The police are an arm of the state. The police are upholding what they believe is state power, and littered in there is a bunch of white supremacists and racists because it was founded on that principle, right? Like overseers were designed to keep the slave plantation intact, right? And you know, the police, like any government around the country, has a unit that enforces whatever it is that they believe, right? And that's the police are going to enforce that. If it's capitalism, if it's fascism, if it's whatever it is that's here, that's what the police are enforcing. We have to transform systemically what this system is, and the police are a part of that. They're a part of that. So when you say transforming the police, you also have to transform the educational system. You have to transform the economic system. You have to transform the political system. You got to get rid of the electoral college. You got to get rid of this just two-party system and allow other people to have opportunities to have access to political power. There's all kinds of things that need to be transformed, right? We just get stuck on the thing that the media gives us the most attention around. And we have to understand that this thing is so vast that I'll struggle every day. Like all of it, we can't be concentrated on everything because when you defend all fronts, you defend none. And so there's some people who are working on some things. That's why you have to have alliances with people who are working on specific things that you might not be working on, right? And not say later for those guys because they're not doing what I want them to do. But we need them to do that, right? There may be some people that are fighting for complete political or electoral change in electoral system. Well, we need that. We don't say later for those guys. They doing something that's job, or we ain't with that, or that's not that's revolutionary or radical enough. We need them to do that. And we need the people who are the liberals are in this space that are fighting for police reforms. We need them to fight for police reforms. We need that, right? And so we need to pull together with folks that are doing that. All our folks that are interested in education, and they like all they talk about is education. They have education conferences, and why we need to. They're reading the Naeem Akbars and the Jawaza Kanjufus and all of those folks talking about how to transform the educational system so people believe in themselves and they graduate and they think and they do it. Well, we need that too, right? So that's what I'm saying. We get to a point where you start believing that what you're doing is the only thing that needs to be done. That's the beginning of the end, right? That's why we can't win, right? And we have to get victories, right? And the way you organize people is by winning. Small victories, medium-sized victories, large victories. People want to be a part of a winning team, man. I've learned that the hard way.
Building on them as you go.
Yeah, people want to be a part of a winning team. And you have to get those victories.
And so therein lies our problem, man, right? So, where we are now is that, we with this constant attention that's being paid to these killings that are going on of Black folks and particularly Black youth now, right? With that kind of attention, that's where the focus seems to be on the police, right? On everything that's going on. And I thought about something that Pat Robertson had said. What he saw as the problem, man, he sort of said that it was the class of people that were being hired to be the police, right? One, and then two, the fact that they weren't being paid enough, right? For people to consider that as a profession, right? So you need better people to be screened. Yes, we need the police department, but we need people who don't practice racism and white supremacy and don't come from the slave catchers' perspective mindset and don't join the police department because somehow they want to either control Black bodies, one, or two, kill Black folks, right?
Well, they learn that in the educational system. That's why all of that is connected. That's where they get that from. They're not. This stuff is learned. Like nobody's born. They learn this stuff. They learn it through radio, through church, through school, through TV, through media, through culture. That Black people are inferior. That we're less than human. That they are superior. That white supremacy. They learn this either subtly or outright aggressively, right? And we practice this. We've been practicing it in this country for centuries. White supremacy is an idea. That means that Black people can be white supremacists, right? So it means that there are Black people who practice white supremacy. how crazy as that sounds is real. They're black
in uniform.
That's right. They practice white supremacy. And so when people say, oh, it can't be racist because he was black. No, it is, because he's wearing the banner of white supremacy on his head, his mind. Is a white supremacist mind, colonial kind of mind, a neo-colonial mind, a Negro with a neo-colonial mind who is a white supremacist. And so this behavior is learned. And you know, it's not just about like who you put on the police department, right? We changing like the people on the police department. Police department is in Newark is predominantly Black and Latino right now. In fact, mostly Latino. The second is African American right now, predominantly. I mean, overwhelmingly predominantly Black and Latino right now. So, and we still have issues, right? We still have issues. So it takes a whole systemic shift. And the reason that the police are the focus because they are out front and the most dangerous, right? They have these weapons, they have guns, and they're confronting us, right? The relationship between the police and the community is at the forefront, right? All the other things that are destroying us and killing us is not as, flagrant in people's faces. Like I always tell people, more Black women die in the hospital than they do by the police, and which talks about the inequity in the healthcare system. But the whole thing needs to be checked out, man. The whole thing needs to be checked out. So when Ben and Jerry's put out their thing and say the system cannot be reformed, it needs to be transformed from the ground up, they need to apply that to everything, not just the police.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, man. But time is of the essence, man. Right? So we and we've been struggling ever since we've been in this country, and so we've got to be moving quickly. We've got to be moving fast because we've got to come up with an answer, because we haven't even gotten through the George Floyd verdict, and all of a sudden, right, we got a Dante Wright, right, get murdered by another police officer, right? Yeah. So we got that white supremacist racist mind in this female who can't tell the damn difference between a taser and a 9mm Glock.
26-year veteran trained female officer couldn't tell the difference. They already setting the stage to minimize whatever she would face in terms of consequence.
And she trains other officers.
Right. Shit. And that's what she was doing then, man. Yeah, she was training those two guys that was making the arrest.
Yeah. She was training when you want to shoot somebody, yell taser.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't make this up.
Just incredible, man. And it's like, the other part of that, man, is that I got to ask the question, what is happening to us though, man? Right? Because if you talk about, people with that Negro state of mind, what the hell is happening to us? Because we're the conscious brothers and sisters in the community, and we can clearly see what's going on. I mean, I'm telling you, I am clearly affected by it. I mean, I'm having real issues, man. My own mind about, being stopped by police, by my own reality about whether I'm going to live or die. I mean, that's a real conversation in my own mind.
It's scary, brother. It's scary. I got a young boy. You're scared to let, till they get an age, you got to let them out the house. God knows, all of the things that we have to fight against in our community, and then worry about the police and everything else. It's just dangerous. It's dangerous. And I think, we need to do some reflection, man. A lot of the activists and leaders and all this, we need to do some reflection because honestly, we need to have some real down-home meetings and vent and get the things out, and we need to have self-reflection because we are basically repeating a lot of the things that other folks went through. We're repeating those things over and over and over again. And it's shameful that that's happening. It's like we haven't read anything,
right?
Anything,
right?
And it should not be repeating stuff.
What are the things that you think what are the things that you see we're repeating? Like, what are those things that we're not learning the lessons that we should be learning from?
The way we deal with one another, allowing the people to get between us and create drama and ignorance, not learning from the tactics that people used in the past, taking the positive and learning from what they did and romanticizing everything, because there's some things that people did that were wrong, right? That did not work. And we have to figure out what those were and not repeat those, right? There's some things that did not, we can't say that everything that happened was right. Like, if you talk to people in the movement at the time that's going to be honest with you, they have a lot. Like, if you talk to my mother or her friends or people like that, they have a lot of things, a lot of critique about the stuff that was going on. You'll never hear them talking about it in a public meeting. But, that's what I mean. We got to have these discussions about what was wrong and what was right, and build on what we need to be doing in terms of coalitions, in terms of what alliances really should look like. How do we stop ourselves from being victimized or victimizing each other, or not getting the results that we're supposed to get. I mean, we just need to have honest discussions with each other about what happened, and I don't think that has taken place, and a lot of it is because a lot of people were arrested, a lot of people were isolated, a lot of people were driven out of this community. A lot of things happened, man, and we just didn't have the discussions that we should have had, and we're still not having those discussions with each other. And you got a bunch of isolated organizations that are out here trying to do things on their own, here, there, and people are just not working together the way we need to be, and understanding that unity without uniformity is important. That we have to figure this out together, right? We have to figure this out, and I just don't think that's happening, man, at all.
And why do you think we're not having those conversations, man?
Well, I just don't think I just think that it has a lot to do with the folks in charge, myself included. Like, it's a commentary about me as well. Like, we all have to put the stuff down, not say we too busy or we don't like this person, or I'm angry with that person, and get in the room. We got to get in the room, and we're going to have to invite our elders in and allow them to reprimand us, and some of us don't want to hear that, right? About what was wrong and what was right, and talk about those things that happened that shouldn't have happened in the 60s, 70s, and that some of us are still out here doing, right, every day. Like being able to take care of our families for one, right? having opportunity to retreat, to talk. Like, it's okay to retreat. Like, it's advance and retreat. And while you advance and retreat, you just don't advance without retreat. You have to retreat. That's dialectics. Like, there's a time for retreat. There's a time for repair. Like, we have to deal with our mental and social situation. And people have to deal with that. With relationships, you have to deal with, us believing that we have the right answer to everything and everybody else don't. We done read one book, 2 books. You ask people, we just don't study enough. One or 2 books, and that makes us believe like we have the answers to everything, and we're not willing to sit down and talk to one another, and we critique each other all the time in public. We got stuff to say negative about each other all the time in public. You can pick up a paper, a TV, of anything, and listen to people talk terrible about people who are supposed to be their allies, and that stuff should not be happening. In fact, those are the things that destroyed us. Those are the things that killed us. And we shouldn't be doing that. And we should be sophisticated enough, if we have a disagreement, to call somebody or meet somebody. Hell, you can email today. They couldn't email then.
Right.
Meet me somewhere and let's talk this out, right? And figure out, because ultimately, if you don't want the fundamental same thing, you don't want what exists now. Right? And at least unite around that to say what exists now is wrong. Right? Let's figure out how to get past where we at today, because today is terrible, right? So we have that in common, at least. Like, this right here is got to go, and so let's figure out how that happens. We might not agree on all of it, but we have to be courageous enough to do ourselves.
The late great Sheikh Albert Noah Washington, a Panther political prisoner who died in prison in 2000 from cancer.
That's right.
last interview that we got from him, he said, look, you young heads, don't let my comrades just give you the romantic version of what we did. Make sure you ask them the hard questions. Make sure you insist on them telling you about the mistakes that were made. Make sure you're checking in a self-critical way your own practice on a regular basis, right? That's how we're going to move forward. If everything was perfect, I wouldn't be in prison. He wouldn't be in prison. He wouldn't be dead, and we wouldn't be having to do all this fighting. If everything was working, everything wasn't working, and there were mistakes that were made and the lessons that need to be learned. And I'll tell you, just transparent, just a way, just 40 years of accumulation of all the stuff that we carry trying to do this work.
That's right.
And not doing it in a balanced way, working together with each other, COVID and all this other kind of stuff. Look, I'm going to tell you, I'm making it plain. Last year was a horrible year for my mental health, right? I had to really stop, and I took some losses to make me see that on a personal level. Like, oh man, I got to really got to check this. So, and where do I want to bring that? One of the things that's important that I want us to appreciate too, that's on our watch that we are doing, is this whole question of trying to make our community a trauma-informed community. That's nothing to dismiss, because it's language you might not understand. And the kind of trauma that our people are carrying in the immediate sense and our historical trauma is loaded. It's loaded. And we need to learn how to figure that out, because that too is a serious wild card getting in the way of us trying to do the things that we need to do and trying to do some of those things together.
That's right.
And Mayor Baraka, I always say, I love that. Hey, everybody, that one of your at the Legislative Black Caucus, when you were the keynote speaker, and when you said 10 items, we get to number 3, everything falls apart. And those are the basic things, and some of the things you're talking about, that we have to get back in rooms and really begin to talk to each other. I was at the last Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative conference. At the same time, the young people were doing a conference, and they had a session, and at their session, they were talking about, they really didn't want to listen to, and this was around Black Lives Matters, topics like that. And they were very upset, and they really didn't want to hear from the elders. And I'm actually go try to find, because it's actually on video. So I'm gonna go and send it to Ed, and we'll send it out so everybody can see it. But at that point, so you figure that was 2019 in September, and they just didn't want to hear from the elders, because they thought some of the things that were being said at the podium and the discussion is that the elders were disrespectful to them. So I guess
that might be,
I'm sorry.
That might be true.
So those hard conversations, but what the reality is, that some of it you may not want to hear, and it may not come out real nice, but you may need to hear it. So Absolutely. Those are the conversations we need to have and get, because I come from a generation that you necessarily might not like the tone that it was delivered to you, but you still had to listen,
Absolutely. And we have to get the people that are willing to do it, right? Because it has to begin somewhere. We have to have these discussions, and elders may have been disrespectful, and that has to be brought out. Our young people probably need to study, and the elders need to respect their youth, right? Because what elders need to understand is, at one point they were them, right? Mm-hmm. And at least have the tolerance to deal with yourself 15 years ago. And if you were truly a part of what they were part of, that spirit, and be able to get everybody in a room, not just to have like a kumbaya moment, but to strategize. That's the key thing.
Right. That's what caucuses are for.
That's right. You got to strategize. That's what it's about. We have to strategize. We can't just get in there and call each other names. It's about strategy. You don't have to like me. It's about we strategizing here. How are we going to get this from point A to point B to point C? What are we going to do, like to make these things happen? And look, the people in Congress fight like cats and dogs. but break the law and see if you don't go to jail. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, they support this thing. So at the end of the day, there's all kinds of times in history where people who were on opposing sides united and created alliances to fight, something larger. Hell, the Soviet Union and the U.S. Got together with the Allied powers to fight Hitler in Germany, right? And then the Cold War began after that. But at the end of the day, there has to be an opportunity for us to at least find common ground and organize around the issues that are important to all of us in these communities, like our kids dying, like police shooting us, right? Like unemployment and poverty and better education. Those things we could get together around, right? We can agree that we're not where we're supposed to be, but so we should be able to have the courage to get in the room and talk about how we get there. And a lot of times people are fighting for the attention of the masses of people. And we fight each other for that, like who's following who and I don't want you to listen to him. And we believe that if we like demean the character of one person, that all of those people will now follow me. And that's just not true, right? I've learned that in politics. That's just not true. So at the end of the day, people want to follow what they believe works, right? They want to be a part of something that's winning. And so we got to put together a strategy for the people in our community that they see as a winning strategy, not as a losing strategy.
And I also believe that the arts is a good way. If we remember the movie The Butler, and they showed the scene when they were teaching the young people when you were getting ready to protest, when you were getting ready to go into a Woolworths and do a sit-in, how this would play out. And they did that. And we need to get back to doing some real life role playing and help people understand that here's the situation, this is how it's going to play out, and how do you respond, and what are the different responses that you can do. So I believe, and that's where the arts can come in and be helpful.
Now, I think what Zaid said was critical about what himself, because, and that's what I was trying to say about advancing and retreating. I think this romanticism that like you're going to fight forever until the end is just, your body is not going to let you do that despite what you think, right? And so that's why it's important to make sure you building cadres and educating young people so they could do the things that your body won't let you do anymore, right? That you have to find a place for solace. You have to retreat. You have to treat your mental self. You have to treat your emotional self. You have to relax. You have, like Ken Gibson said, take an hour a day for yourself, brother. You have to do something to replenish your energy so that you're able to fight. This idea that we're going to keep fighting is ridiculous. Adina, who is the developer, said something so powerful at the ribbon cutting of the IHOP. I had to look twice, just basically just off of her struggle, saying, she's tired of this, black woman magic thing. She said, because it's not magic what we do. Like, this is hard work. Like, we actually doing work, and there's incredible obstacles in our way that we have to move. So this idea that something magical happened diffuses this concept of there are real obstacles in our way. Please talk to me about the obstacles, she said. Tell the little girls about the obstacles that they have to face and give them a strategy of how to move those obstacles that is not helping them to believe that it's magic. Because if they can't do it, then they're going to believe they ain't got that magic, right? Let them know that there's something real out here.
Because right? Easy to give up like that. That's right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
There's no superhero thing that you got going on. Like, we out here fighting. And when you in a fight, you get bruised sometimes, you get beat sometimes. And you have to figure out how to recover from that and how to get help and how to have alliances, right? And if you're not training people, which our leaders, a lot of us did not do, especially in the elected world, but in most places, we're not training people and bringing people up behind us. We're not bringing people up behind us, right? Then we're not preparing them. You believe you're going to be 30 for the rest of your life. And that's not how science works. It just doesn't work that way.
Legs don't work like that either.
Yeah. No, knees, legs, yeah. As your grandmother keeps saying, keep living, keep living.
That's right. Keep living. It's going to happen, right?
I think that's real good, man. I think that, for us to come to a place where, with what Adina said, tell me what those obstacles are. And that is the real struggle, I think, for most Black folks in terms of making it. I can remember Matty Rich having told us that, when we started College Entertainment Review, when we were in undergrad, man, back in the early 90s. And he said he had went to meet with Spike Lee when he was trying to produce his movie. And he said Spike had told him that if I tell you how I did it, he said, then you're going to become my competition. And he said that had offended him as a young man because he had to learn how to make movies on his own because he was trying to figure out what obstacles did he run into around financing and all of that.
Real big bro. That's terrible.
Yeah, he told me
that.
Yeah, Matty Rich told me that. Yeah.
That's terrible.
We need to see how we can get Sister Dina on it because she's an incredible story.
Yeah.
So that yeah, we do need to get on. But I think that, for her to say that, she's absolutely right, man, because I think that, and especially around politics, right? That's why, man, I say to Mitty all the time, right? And I said this to Rakia. I said that they have the experience on a real level with what Mitty does for you, with what she does for Lumumba, right? For her brother. I think on a very real level, right? We need to be holding classes to be able to teach that, because if we ever gonna get to the direction, the direction that Amiri gave us, before he went home to be with the Lord and said, yo, those 27 states where all those cities are where we populate, he said we should be taking over those city halls. So then therefore, if we know what a formula is to get Mayor Barakat elected and Mayor Lumumba elected, then we ought to be
progressive agenda
teaching that, right? Mm-hmm. So we can do that in those 27 states, and then we can control those damn police departments, school systems, and all of that, right? Because I said this to Mitty last week, man. I told him the only reason why the cops in Newark ain't beating the hell out of us is because you and Mitty. If we didn't have Black conscious leadership in the city of Newark, cops would be out of goddamn control.
Yeah, I agree with that. Today we had a meeting with the law enforcement to tell them we want to make it a standard operating procedure. Like when people protest, they have the right to protest. They have the right, the democratic right to do these things. And our job is not to respond with the military, right? So, but that's real. But, even when you talk about Lumumba, his father was the mayor first.
Right. That's right.
This is the brother, the lawyer, provincial government, the RNA, and all of that stuff. This is real stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this idea that, you can't use electoral politics is just not right. It's not a right idea. The idea is to seize power. As a matter of fact, I'm rereading this book that I read when I first went to college.
Kwame Ture. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Politics of Liberation. I'm rereading the book here. Right? Why? Because it's some stuff that you need to reread, like particularly in this time period, right? Trying to figure out, like when I read it at 18 is different than me reading it at 52.
That's right.
And so you have a different viewpoint, different eyes that's on a different mindset. So I want to reread that, and I think it's necessary. And there's a lot of things that we need to reread and get back to it and deal with some of the stuff that's going on here. Like there are people who call themselves activists but haven't read anything. And that's, to me, a problem. That's a problem. If you were math, problem, you have to study math, right? If you're an engineer, you have to study science and math, right? If you're a writer, you study other writers, right? You can't be a doctor and not go to medical school, right? How are you going to say you're a revolutionary and you have not studied revolution? You don't know anything about any revolutionary movements that took place, any of it that ever happened, whether it's here or anywhere around the world, right? Or the people that were involved in it and the events that caused it and the systems the dynamics that are around it. You have to study that. You have to be a student of the movement before you can say all these things. People believe because they troll people on social media that makes them an activist. or because they showed up at a few rallies. That's not what that means. That's not what that means. Like you have to engage this stuff, right? You have to engage it, right? Because the people who you are trying to change this thing from, who you're trying to wrestle this stuff from, they're not giving it to you. And just because you yelling, we need reparations, don't mean nobody gonna give it to you.
Right.
Right? That doesn't mean we still fighting for Mumia Abu Jamal today.
Go ahead, man.
We still fight. Mumia is dying in jail.
That's right.
He's 3 breaths from death. It ain't no joke. We need to talk about that. That's dangerous.
I was at Free Mumia rallies when I was a college kid, man. Here we are still today at Mumia rallies and events, and he's dying in prison. It means that there's some strategies and tactics that we have to change. That's what it means. Like, it's not about just us. It's selfish to believe, because it's like cathartic. You get out there, you do your thing, you yell and scream, you do whatever it is. Now you feel good, but Mumia is still in jail.
Right.
And dying.
Right. So how do you figure out how to actually get him out of jail? What is the process that we take to, because that is a revolutionary act. How do you get him out of there? Right? How do you transform this stuff in our community for real? Like, for real. Like, how do you get this stuff to change so that your children and their children's children are not on the Ed Riley show talking about all the same things that we've been talking about, you know, when we were here? What do we leave behind that people can carry with them and use as a key to unlock some of these doors in the future that's going to be blocking them in? And that's just how I feel about it. Like, I grew up in my mother's car, my father's car. They would park around the corner sometimes and go up the street and go to these anti-apartheid rallies, the Support Zimbabwe and all these places in New York. And the police would beat people. You see people running and chasing, and you're a kid, right? You sitting there, you observing, you watching all of that. I mean, that stuff has a traumatic effect on you. So when people start talking about, or people breaking in our house when we were kids, or me having security, my father having security in the basement, and all this stuff going on, to me, you know, it's traumatic, right? So it's not just like a romantic thing. And so when people get involved in this stuff, like, I take it personal. I get serious about it, because I know people who are like victimized by this thing. Like, Mumia is not the only political prisoner in jail.
Right.
There's a bunch of us that are still there.
Right.
Still there.
Longer.
Still there. And they got children. Sundiata Coley Squire. I'm gonna stop on this one, brother. Sundiata Coley Squire was locked up. His daughter is a lawyer in a huge law firm. She's petitioned. I wrote them a letter. A lot of people don't know that. I wrote the letter to the governor, wrote a letter to everybody else to tell them to allow Sundiata to come home on release, like around COVID.
Yeah.
Go to his daughter's home. Here's a man who's dying in prison, becoming senile, affected by COVID. All of this stuff can't hurt anybody. It won't do, who has served
48 years.
Yeah, and they won't let him go to his daughter's house, who has a home. She has a home, and she's a lawyer at a prestigious law firm. In his house, they won't let that happen, because they're afraid, because we haven't developed the right strategy and the right process. I'm glad that the family, like, I went to college with the daughter, and the family and everybody else is smart enough to begin to figure out how to maneuver political levers to try to make things happen. But we have to do better, man. We just have to do better. We have to do better. When I start thinking about that, I think that, it just makes me emotional. Like, we got to do better, because we out here fighting each other, acting like fools, and the people who we praise, they suffering.
And you know what, Mayor? I said Ed just said something. He said last week. He said last week, but also people take what we do. I can remember right after President Obama was elected, and people started teaching the Obama strategy, like the $5 campaigning from doing coffee clutches all the way up to the big, and they started taking what we were doing, and even from civil rights, people have taken those lessons and began teaching them. Why is it that it seems that other people take our practices and do them, but it seems that perhaps we're not learning from what are the very things that we do, but other people do? It appears that way.
Well, I think everybody, and that's with everything, people adopt and use our culture no matter what it is, right? And I think we take a lot of stuff for granted, and because it's us, and we figure that because we in it, we don't have to read about it or study it or learn from it or internalize it or treat it in a serious way. Anger is the first emotion. It certainly shouldn't be the last one. You can't build and organize from anger. Only love helps you do that, right? Love of your people is stronger than anger from what your enemy has done, right? Because anger subsides. Anger is a fleeting emotion. Because when you calm down, you get old, other things happen, the anger subsides a little bit, right? But love of your people helps you fight completely and totally. Like a mother's love would make them run in an abandoned building to rescue their children that's on fire. Anger is not an emotion that would that response, right? Love solicits that, right? And so how do you love your people to the point that you'll give your life for them, right? Or that you'll do these specific things consistently, no matter what's happening. And that's what we have to build, right? You have to build that based on reading and studying and working and all these other kind of things. And I don't think that is just natural, that it just happens naturally. And so we take it for granted. We take it for granted because we live here and we're a part of this, that we naturally going to be able to, that we A, going to know what the answers are, and B, going to have the stamina to continue to fight the way we want to fight. And that's just not true. It's not true. You're a human being.
Man, listen, man, I know it's your time, man. We got to let you go. Yep. Just want to say thank you, my brother. We appreciate you coming through. We appreciate your wisdom. And, a lot of folks texting me, man, saying, yo, man, they appreciate it when you talk like this to them, man. And
that's y'all, man. Y'all start this all the time. Get me in trouble.
No, they say.
I eat on the show, and this one here, y'all just provoked me, man. Jonathan.
This electricity. You know what it is, man? I think a lot of people don't really. I mean, they know you, but they haven't really heard you like that in a while. You know what I mean? So it's like when they see you on the show, it's like a blast from the past, man, because they remember you doing all of that, and they see you, being the mayor and being, always, trying to be, correct and do all of that. For them, they want to hear this kind of conversation, so they just want to say thank you to you, man.
I appreciate it.
So I'm gonna let you have the last word, man.
No, I mean, ultimately, like we have to know the difference between politics and political struggle. Like those are different things, and we have to organize, right? And if we're not organized, then anything is going to happen, right? To us, and in order for us to make things happen for us, we have to be organized, and you have to be. We have to organize ourselves, and we're going to have to get in a room and have these debates and discussions. And I'm willing to do it. I mean, everybody has to be, willing to make those things happen. I'm willing to do it. We got to find time, and we got to make these things happen about everything that we dealing with. We got to talk about it, and I'm down for it. So that's all. And I appreciate y'all letting me get on this show and vent, man, every month. I appreciate it.
Electricity in the base.
Well, that's why you are a damn man. Thank you, my brother.
All right, y'all.
All right,
thank you. And that was All Politics Are Local. That was the Mayor's Forum. Actually, it's funny because I always get a new book reading list, or at least another book to buy.
Exactly. I just purchased it.
Right. So yeah, everyone's hitting up their Amazon.
He just educated us all. We all need to shoot down to that black bookstore tomorrow and get that damn book. We need to buy all of it.
Because That's true, because I went to Amazon, right? And I was like, no, I messed up. Sorry, I gotta go back.
I'm going downtown Newark, bro.
I gotta go to my bookstore.
Let me text Masani now and tell her to send 10 over.
Make sure she got it. That's right.
Exactly. That's
well, we are moving quickly into our next segment, and our next segment is we believe in civil civic discourse on All Politics Are Local. And I think that having an understanding of politicians, people who are running, what they are doing, I think that is so incredibly important. So we do candidates forums, and we're doing a candidates forum tonight for the Newark Public Schools. So everyone who is running for the Newark Public Schools is going to be on here tonight, and they're going to be given time to be able to talk about what they believe in and why they should be running in the for the Board of Education, for the elected Board of Education. As many of you know, in Newark Public Schools right now, Newark Public Schools controls its elected board, and we are locally controlled for the first time. And so what we're doing is making sure that we ask the candidates questions and get them to talk and really get the candidates to talk about what they believe and what they represent. So we're going to start off. We're starting off with our first group of people. They are Newark Board of. They are moving Newark Forward candidates. Verily Santana, Asia Norton, Daniel Gonzalez, and Dawn Haynes is also on the ticket. She hopefully will be coming in as well to have those questions, right? And answer some questions and tell about who they are. So I'm just going to start this off and get the candidates talking about what it is and why they are running. The first question I will ask is based on a lot of people I talk to who served on the board say that one of the things that one of the main things they do is read a lot of information. They have to synthesize information from different sources in a small amount of time. So can the candidates here tell me, is there what in their background, in their biography, allows them to be able to process all that information for kids in a small amount of time and work in the interest of Newark Public School students in doing that?
And so first, hello all. All Politics Are Local family. Jonathan, everyone, Ed, I know he probably stepped off. Donna, I completely thank you for having us on the Moving Newark Schools Forward ticket. Again, Dawn Haynes, she's not able to be with us right now. She is practicing Ramadan, and so she might be breaking fast right now. And if she's able to come on, but just that's the reason why she's not on right now. But along with my other teammates, Verily Santana and Daniel Gonzalez, thank you so much for having us. And my background, thank you so much for the question. My background, I'm a teacher. And so being a board member and asking for the citizens and residents here in the city of Newark for my reelection, the board comprises of a lot of things. There's finance, programs and instruction, there's personnel, legal matters, facilities. There's so much that goes into operating a school district of our size. And there's no way that one person can have all that knowledge. And that is why I'm proud to be amongst my teammates, because we all kind of fill in that make up a good team that comprises of all those different aspects that will make a good board member or board members in general. And so my background in education, I was a teacher right here in the city of Newark for 6 years, and I'm actually third generation teacher. My family has been teaching right here in the city of Newark for over 50 years. And that background allows me to have insight when we're making curriculum adoption. What type of teacher training should we be providing our teachers, and a host of other things. And so me bringing that education background certainly helps, but I'm also a parent, a mother. My son, he's 9 years old, and just having those everyday lived experiences as a mother, as a parent, helps me when making decisions on behalf of our students. And so I don't think there's ever enough time to be well-versed in everything that makes up the board of of education here in the city of Newark. That's why we rely on each other. And that's why I'm proud to be running with these individuals, because Daniel has a very strong finance background, but Elise has a very strong policy background. And Dawn, she has a very strong grassroots background, and all that is necessary to ensuring that not only do we maintain local control, but that we make decisions that are in the best interest of our students, our children, our families.
Thank you. And the next person, or Verily Centeno, do you want to?
Absolutely. Hi, Mr. Austin, and I would like to greet everyone on the call, everyone that's tuning in right now to All Politics Are Local. I think that's an excellent question, and I'm going to just dive right into my educational background. So in terms of research and synthesizing information and maybe reading and being able to assemble really complicated ideas, I graduated with a bachelor's in English, and I have a master's in English literature and linguistics. I'm currently in school. I'm enrolled at the Rutgers Master of Business Administration program here at Rutgers Newark, and I currently serve as a policy director to Senate Education Chair M. Teresa Ruiz. So I don't know if many people are familiar with the legislative process, but it can be very dense material. We're literally drafting legislation. Bills that could potentially be written into law by the governor, right? So I work with a lot of stakeholders, and that includes our Office of Legislative Services, our advocacy groups, and our local community organizations to build and create comprehensive policy, right? And I'm responsible for driving the senators and developing the senators' legislative budget and policy agenda. And I ensure that it gets through both the Senate and the Assembly, because we all know that the bill needs to go through both houses, right, before it reaches the governor's desk. So that's a very complicated and nuanced process. And every step of the way, you're always checking in, either with staff. You know, we have an incredible office of attorneys who are really responsible for making sure that our legislation is in correct form. But in terms of the policy, that's where I come in, and my experience lends me that sort of support for the board, because we all know that our responsibility as board members is to ensure that our children are receiving the best education possible. And with that, we receive a lot of documents, a lot of proposal, a lot of contracts, right? And we have to ensure that we are also following state statute. So with that, I think that my experience really lends me to be a great service to our children here in the city of Newark. But of course, I think as my running mate Asia had mentioned, and that's really the beauty of our slate, because we are running as a ticket, the Moving Newark Schools Forward slate. We all are bringing something different to the table, and we make a well-rounded, comprehensive team. So with this upcoming election coming up on Tuesday, April 20th, we have Asia, who has a phenomenal background as an educator, right? She's a seasoned board member, so this is her second time running for the school board. We have our running mate, Daniel Gonzalez, who brings over 20 years of budget and finance experience in the government sector, right? Because we know that's a whole different beast and animal, separate from our corporate budgeting. And then we also have Ms. Dawn Haynes, who brings the community organization relationships, her networks within City Hall, and she's also a seasoned board member and serves currently as our vice president.
So, and thank you. So Daniel Gonzalez, how would you deal with the question? What is there in your background that allows you to deal with large groups of or a large amount of information in a small amount of time for the people of Newark, for the kids of Newark?
Well, thank you again. Thank you for hosting and the great question. Again, my name is Daniel Gonzalez. I'm working or running with the Moving Newark Schools Forward team. I was the value that I'm going to bring to the board. First, I'm a product of Newark. I was born, raised, educated in Newark. Went to Rutgers University in Newark with an accounting degree. I worked in international accounting firms prior to working for government. I got recruited in 2002 and worked as a finance director for the city of Newark. I think that with my background and my as a product of Newark, vested in Newark, this is an opportunity to give back to Newark. I think that with my background and the diverse group of fortunate to be working with a diverse group of ladies that I'm running with, I think that I could bring value to the team. City of Newark has the Newark school system has a budget of over $1 billion, and with my background with contract negotiations, budget, government finance, budget background, understands the activities of a government. I think I'm more than qualified and anxious to work in this capacity to be able to give back to the citizens and the children of the city of Newark.
Thank you. One of the second question that we'll ask of everyone is when you are on the board, you are actually dealing with lots of different people. There's lots of there's potential for lots of interpersonal conflict, not just with each other, but with other citizens of Newark. Education is always a very heated issue. What is there also in your biography, in your background, that allows you to deal well with all sorts of different people, even people who might be contentious, people who might not like you? What is there in your background that allows you to deal with conflict? What would you bring to the board in that regard?
And so I can go first. So on the side note, I am one of 3 girls. So my mother had 3 daughters and I'm the middle one. And on a more being a daughter, being the middle child, that alone has helped me with making sure that whatever issues that my older sister, my little sister had, I was always the mediator. Also being a parent, I most certainly know how to pick and choose my battles. With my 9-year-old son, he's actually right beside me and I'm telling him he has to be quiet enough so that y'all can hear me. But on a, I guess, more serious note, just being a teacher right here in the city of Newark has certainly prepared me, being a member of the Newark Board of Education. I taught for over 6 years. And so I have had roughly over 200, 300 students who have families. And as we all know, some of our families are a bit diverse. Some of our families have single parents. Some of our families have 2-parent households. And so our children are being raised by different types of families. And I had to learn to be able to communicate sometimes when families did not see eye to eye with one another, or may have had disagreements of who should be picking up the child or who should be responsible for doing homework with the child. And so all of that most certainly has prepared me to doing this work for the last 3 years. And in the last 3 years, I've had to manage a different type of different types of personalities, because everyone, no matter if they agree with me or please stop. See, whether they agree with me or disagree with me, I know that their hearts are for our children, for our city. And so as long as I keep that as the forefront, that when people are coming to me or disagreeing with me, they're not necessarily disagreeing with where my heart is. And I'm not disagreeing where their heart is, because our heart is with our children. And we all have different ways and passions of going about it. Also, just a side note, I was a lifeguard right here in the city of Newark since I was in high school. And I've worked at all the city pools, Rotunda, Boylan, JFK, St. Peter's. And so that alone has prepared me. Summertime, the heat, people trying to get in pools. Sometimes the pools are overcrowded. And so even that aspect has prepared me of handling, not necessarily handling, I don't like that word, but has allowed me to engage with different personalities and different backgrounds. Again, just for the safety of our children. So thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you. And do you want to go in the same order?
Yes.
Santana? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Alston. I think that's an excellent, again, interview question, because we are dealing with passionate people. We are dealing with an issue that matters, right? And ultimately, whether we disagree or not on an issue doesn't negate their experience, doesn't negate a person's point of view, because I know that my lived experience is different from the person next to me, right? And those were the values that were instilled in me as a child. So I've, and I kind of hit on this on in my previous answer, where we're creating legislation, we're passing legislation where not everyone agrees with, right? So we actually do have committee meetings where people are testifying, and they have the right to do so. They come and they speak their mind, they're speaking from their hearts, and we are there to listen, and we take it into account, because at the end of the day, you cannot negate their experience. Also, previous to my position here, serving as a policy director to the senator, I was also a senior aide to the mayor, where I was working with our local community-based organizations, with our tenant associations, with our block and neighborhood associations, and they all have distinct issues. Now, if they're frustrated about something, it's because it's happening and it's real, right? It's happening in real time. So my responsibility is to convey those frustrations and create actionable solutions to those frustrations, right? So even now, with what's going on with the pandemic, I also, serve the constituents of the district, the 29th legislative district. We have an unprecedented amount of unemployment cases. Claims are and unfortunately, our Department of Labor is having a tough time going through the cases and attending to the cases. So you have folks who are in desperate situations, and they're relying on the state for help. So I'm answering those calls. I'm helping those people. I'm connecting them to those resources. And I understand I don't get frustrated, because I know if, God forbid, any one of us, God takes you down, one day you may be up, but the next day you may be down. And that's the sort of compassion that I live my life with. Those are my personal values. And I think that serving on the board, those are the same sort of values that I'm going to instill in every decision that I make.
Thank you. And Daniel Gonzalez?
Yes, thank you for the question.
Just before you start speaking, our time will be up in 7:26, just in terms of a time warning.
Okay, so again, what my experience and value is going to bring to the board is pretty much even in my day job, I negotiate union contracts. I work with the administration in the current role that I work, my current position. So the value I'm going to bring is, being understanding and working with union contracts, making understand budgets, making sure that they are going to be aligned with the concerns and priorities of the citizens and the kids of the city of Newark. And so my experience is going to bring just that another level of diversity to the board, to be able to bring some comprehensive solutions to the challenges that we'll face during our term.
Thank you so much. And as the candidates, you still have 2 minutes left, and I would ask you to, is there anything else that you would like to say to the constituents?
Yes, make sure you come out and vote on April 20th. for the North School Board election. And I most certainly am asking you to come out and vote for me and my team, the Moving North Schools Forward team. And our ballot positions are behind me. A1 being Dawn Haynes, A2, Bettely Santana, A3, myself, Asia Norton, B2, Daniel Gonzalez. I truly believe that school board elections are the most important elections because it's elections about our children, and our children will forever represent the future of our nation. And it's very important that we have board members such as myself, Bettely, Dawn, and Daniel being members of the NORC board, because we are truly here to serve the children and make decisions in their best interests. And so again, come out on April 20th and vote for A1, A2, A3, and B2, and also vote yes to the public question, because that is the budget. And so thank you again, All Politics Are Local, for having us.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your team for coming on. We believe in civic discourse and these board elections. We are having all of the candidates on tonight. Sheila Montague will be coming on at 7:30. We will have Yolanda Johnson at 7:45. We will have Phil Wilson at 8 o'clock and Adira Brown at 8:15. So all of the candidates will have time to speak extensively, individually about why they should be on the North Board of Education. Donna, while we're waiting for
Mr. Austin, if you could just give me if you could just give me an opportunity to say something really quickly, and I won't rehash anything that Ms. Norton just said, but I remember when we honored Brianna Aaron on the Senate floor, right? I remember coming across the article, #1 U.S. debate champion, right, in the country. And I remember reading her story where she was having difficulties in her matches leading up to the championship, right? And she said, "Whoa, like I'm feeling all these people, right? I have so many people counting on me, but because people like you, the mentors around her, the support surrounding her, she was able to reach that level of success, right? She was able to tap into that self-confidence and into her talent. And that's what we're trying to achieve. We want every child in the city of Newark to be able to tap into that reserve, because we know every child is born with it. And that's the ultimate message that I want, everyone to take away from tonight. Please vote, come out on April 20th on Tuesday and vote for A1, A2, A3, and B2.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for that. Thank you for that particular shout out. And very, very much appreciated. Again, we are having all of the board candidates on. So everyone who's running is going to be on. And yes, I work for the Newark Board of Education. I am a board employee. I'm a debate coach. I've been a teacher for a long time. So I always like doing these because I think that part of what we do is civic discourse. I think that that becomes very important to what we do as teachers, as professionals, as debate coaches. So we are glad to be able to do that. We are going to shortly start with Sheila Montague in just a minute. But before we do that, and so welcome, Sheila. Welcome to All Politics So Local. But before we get started, Donna, you always talk about the importance of local elections. Why are these local elections so important? People say, like, why vote for the school board election? Why should they come out?
Not that the name of this radio show doesn't allude to All Politics Are Local. And Ms. Santana actually drove the point home that the legislative process is very complicated, but it is what drives your lives every day. What time you take your garbage can out. As Ms. Montague is going to be talking about the policies that she will be seeking to implement as a board member. These are the decisions that these people, your elected officials make, drive your every day. So that's why All Politics Are Local. And the closer the elected official is to you, the constituent, probably the more you're affected by those policies. And that's why people need to be engaged. And people don't really understand it. But I think, and going back to the mayor's forum, is that we have to really get back to civic engagement and helping people understand how electing Donna translates to what time your garbage can be put on the curb, how much your taxes are, how many charter schools versus public school, all of those dynamics. And I think people have to understand that, and they don't.
Well, and thank you. And so thank you. So Sheila Montague, welcome to All Politics Are Local. I'm going to start with the same question for you. And that is, when people are when people are on the board, they say that one of the most important things is being able to deal with a large amount of information in a short amount of time. There's a lot of tons of different reading about legislation and rules that have to be gotten. What is there in your background, in your biography, that makes you a good candidate for this?
I think, well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate the invite. And to respond to your question, I think what makes me a good candidate for the debate on the school board, and I'm sorry, I'm so taken aback by what was just said before I started speaking. So let me kind of catch my thoughts. I think what makes me a good candidate is the fact that I'm a regular person. I'm not tied in politically. I don't feel the need to follow behind whatever, just paths that are already existing. I think that a lot of things that are being done, and people think they're doing a great thing by smiling and being collective, it's not working. Progression is clearly stagnant and has been for the very bare minimum of 40 years. So, everybody's smiling and saying, oh, relationships are great. No. Democracy is great, right? Being creative is great. Having different ideas that you can bring to the table and execute with real people and not politicians with hidden agendas is great. They talk on the CDC because, I mentioned earlier about zombies. And, when movies present zombies to us, they look like monsters, right? But that's not really what a zombie is. A zombie is a person that is no longer utilizing critical thoughts, right? And their decision making, right? A zombie is somebody that is brainwashed, who's following norms. And just because something is normal doesn't mean that it's right. Times change, and I think that you have to change strategies. And, I think that no arrogance in leadership. And, because I feel like that, I think that would make me a really good board member. Thank you.
The second question that I will ask deals with a question of temperament, getting along with people. And one of the things that also is talked about is that one of the most important things about a board member is to get along with people who they don't get along with, right? Or who they might not like, or who might not like them, or who have very different ideas. What is there inside of your background that allows you to deal with hostile personalities, people that you don't necessarily like, people who you might not get along with, to be able to get things done, work collectively to get things done?
Great question. I think what's in my background that for the most part contributes to that is the fact that I have been a debater in my school growing up all my life, as well as a debate coach for near 20 years. And what that allows me to do is to be able to hear different points of view and tackle those points rather than tackle the person. But what I find many times is that some people don't differentiate, and they can't really tell the difference between when they are being attacked or when their philosophies are being attacked. And that deems problematic in a community where we have, for the sake of people attempting to get along, voting non-zero to almost every single proposition is put up in front of them. When we have people shortening parent speaking time, right? So if we say that parents matter and what they think matters, and we want to increase parental engagement, right? That should be a common goal on the board. What we don't want to do is shorten their speaking time. Also, the closing of so many schools in the South Ward. I think that that's also problematic, and that's something that shouldn't be a non-zero vote. That's not about, like, who is it that you're trying to get along with? You're either being a representation of the people who voted you in, and sometimes that takes a lot of going back and forth, right? Sometimes it takes that real democracy when your voice is heard, and to argue an issue, and not to be argumentative with the person, but again, there's a differentiation there, and you don't do that by relinquishing, right, that power to a person that you hire, such as a superintendent, right? You stand your ground. You know, whatever decisions you make, you know, whether good or bad, they need to be decisions that, you know, that you make, right, with your own critical thinking that the people voted you in to do. And I think that when we talk about getting along, that I think that our first priority and responsibility needs to be to the people.
Well, thank you so much for the answer to that question. You actually have 5 minutes left to talk about why you should be elected. What do you want the people to understand or know about you, about what you can bring to help the kids of Newark in the position as an elected member of the Newark Board of Education?
I'm sorry.
Hello, your feed is coming in and out. Hello, your feed is coming in and out. Ms. Montague, are you there? Sheila Montague, are you there? Yeah, I think you are frozen for now. We'll give a minute to, and we'll, Donna, we'll talk for a second.
And I think sometimes you tell her, John, sometimes if she goes in and out, that might help her. If you can explain that process to her.
Yes. So Donna, you could tell us more about like why April 20th is so important, and I will try to get her back for the remainder of her time.
Vote. I think voting and being engaged is your best voice, and oftentimes we leave ourselves voiceless by not casting our vote, and we play catch up by being more reactive. And I think the best plan is to be engaged. So I'm encouraging everybody to come out and vote. And as Sheila comes back on, and I know I wanted to ask the last group of people, Sheila, can you just tell us voting in person? Is it voting in person? Is it voting, can you just tell us how people can come out so they just know on Tuesday? And is it a full day, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.? She's still frozen?
Yeah, well, usually, we have all of those things in place, but as of now, with 2 days to the election, we haven't even received our voting ballot.
All right, so Sheila, you're going out again. When you come back for the time that you have left, you could just tell us what you want people to know. You don't necessarily have to ask the voting question, because I want you to be able to use your time. So, all right, so she's probably going to go out and then come back in. But Donna, continue to talk about like the election on the 20th and the importance of that.
Okay, so it's the Newark School Board elections, and can you hear me, Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay. The Newark School Board election, voting will commence at 6 a.m. and the polls close at 8 p.m. And I think I heard Sheila say that the ballots may have not gotten out yet. But if persons are having problems, that they can go down to the Hall of Records to the Board of Elections.
All right, questions. I just want to make sure. Sheila, are you back? It's like welcome to online learning, because we have this and teaching all the time.
It's a really bad connection, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
it's a really bad connection.
I can hear you. So you have. We'll give you another 2 minutes. Tell us what you want people to know about why they should vote for you.
Well, thank you. why I would like people to consider voting for me is because I think that politics has offered a tremendously negative impact on our children. When we think about how much true intervention we could do system before our young people get to the actual street. I heard a lot that was said earlier in.
Okay, I think that she came out in terms of bad connections, but this really is something that goes on in schools all the time. Like this is the some of the downsides to online learning, right? Like because there are different things that go on in terms of just connectivity. But thank you, Sheila, so much for being on. And our next candidate is going to be Yolanda Johnson. She's going to be coming on at 7:45. Again, you were in the middle of talking about local elections, Donna, and why they're so important that people come out and that people should vote in these local elections. I know a lot of people don't turn out for these elections, but these are Newark Public School elections. They're on the 20th of April. They're coming this Tuesday. They are in-person elections. We want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on and comes out to vote because these things are very important. So Donna, can you talk to us more about the importance of local elections?
Yes, I just, as we were saying, is that I think the best the best play that any person can have is being at the table. And how do you take your position at the table is to cast your vote for whom you think is the best candidate. And that means showing up on Tuesday at 6 a.m. The polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. If you cannot get to the polls on Tuesday, you can go down to the Board of Elections and vote in person on Monday and cast your ballot. But I think that we really need to engage. I don't know the number of voters in the city of Newark, but I think everybody needs to show up. And you don't show up just because you have children. You show up because the schools are very important to our community. You pay taxes, and even if you're not a homeowner, when your rent includes taxes. So you have to be engaged in this process, and engagement means casting your vote. And I really want our numbers. I always talk about in Essex County, we kind of border at like 30% voter turnout. That means we're leaving 70% of votes on the table. And I want us to stop doing that. And I want us to be totally engaged and vote, vote, vote.
Absolutely. We're just waiting for our next person to come on. The next person who is going to be up is going to be Yolanda Johnson. She was actually commenting.
I was going to put it to you in a different way, Jonathan. You're a teacher. I'm going to call you Mr. Austin for the rest of the night. Okay. Well, just think when you're having a teacher-parent night and you got that class all done up and you're waiting for parents to come in and you have 100 students, and how does it feel when only like 3 parents show up? You want everybody, you want all your parents to show up, correct?
Absolutely.
And it holds you more. It kind of holds you in a more responsible place when you see people at that door asking you questions, asking you what about this, what about that, and I guess what's the opposite when nobody shows up? So we can talk about that later after Yolanda speaks.
She is not on yet, so you can actually continue talking about the importance of local voting while I try to bring her. While I try to see if there are any other technical difficulties. I know Yolanda was listening to the show and commenting, and we definitely want to have her on the show to talk about why she should be on the Newark Public Schools. So I'm going to reach out again. So Donna, can you again, like we're saying, people need to come out. They need to vote. They need to vote in these local elections. They need to explain, so because they're important. What are some of the things that we haven't talked about why these specifically the Newark Board of Education, or in case of Irvington, I know Irvington's having their elections as well. Why are those elections so important?
Well, I think this year they're very important because of the many dynamics that are going on. This COVID has taken us taking everybody for a surprise. And when these issues came about, and I'm not a teacher in the classroom, but I know connectivity in terms of people being able to learn from home. I don't know if, and particularly our urban schools, if we were very prepared. Did every kid have a laptop? And I can remember, NJIT, one of their, and I think Seton Hall, the high school, like, I've seen programs with kids, as a part of the package, some of their, like rulers, pens, and pencil, and you had to have a laptop. Did anybody think that having a laptop was really important before COVID-19 hit? And then when it hit and everybody had to learn from home, I know that a lot of, and particularly our urban areas, we were not prepared for it. And the challenges that it brought in terms of leaving kids behind and having to play catch up and things like that. So again, these are decisions that are made by your board members. And if you're not putting people in place that reflect the ideas and the beliefs that you have, that you want your children to learn, then, we're part of the problem. And we can't just always be reactive. We have to be proactive, and we have to start putting our ask on the table and not just coming back and kind of being reactive about it. I know we got some questions coming in, and they're just telling us to vote your own choice. And you know what? It is vote your own choice, and vote your mind, but you have to first vote. And I know people have to get to the polls to vote. And the other thing that I often talk about, a part of our elections, is that if nobody's on that ballot that reflects your choice, guess what you can do? You can write your own name in, or you can write somebody in perhaps that didn't make the ballot. And you can run a write-in campaign. So let's say that you're looking at all the candidates, and for whatever reason, somebody didn't get on the ballot, but that there's somebody in your community that's a stellar person, and they will make a good school board candidate. You can write their name in. I know that my cousin down in Willowboro, she was a write-in candidate, and she's a school board member because she ran a successful write-in campaign. So there are all different type of opportunities. There are different ways that you can become a part of the process, but you have to be in it to win it. And that means showing up on Tuesday to vote. And again, if you can't show up on Tuesday, you can go down earlier on Monday and go down to the Board of Elections. And I don't know the specific hours, but I do know Chris Durkin's office is open. So I would say, if for any reason a person in the town of Newark and/or Irvington, that you're not going to be able to get to the polls on Tuesday, you can contact the office of Chris Durkin on Monday, and you can ask them how you can cast your vote on Monday, or he can give you an alternative. But election is on Tuesday. The polls open at 6:00 a.m. and they close at 8:00 p.m. And the best plan is to be a part of the process and not to wait until after the votes have been cast and ballots have been counted to start participating at that point. You need to be fully engaged, and being fully engaged is start, albeit we're right kind of at the last hour because election day is on the 20th. At this point, you should be doing your reading. And yep, Yolanda, there you go. Read, research, and learn, and learn and figure out what candidate fits the ideas that you think are important to you, and get persons engaged and cast that vote. But you have to cast your vote. And guess what? In Essex County, many elections have been won by 1 or 2 votes. So every vote matters. Every vote counts. Please come out and cast your vote, because your children's future in education depends on that. One of the things that we have been talking about in Essex County in the state of New Jersey, for a very long time is about the Amistad legislation that was passed under Assemblyman Bill Payne. And although that legislation was passed almost 20 years ago, I think, I'll get the exact date, it has not been fully implemented. So again, these are things that you can be talking about to your board members about in your respective school districts, but we're talking about Newark and Irvington right now, and ask them, where are they at with the Amistad legislation? What's their plan for implementation? And hold them accountable. Vote, vote, vote. So, I know we're having some connectivity issues, and we want to continue to have this airspace filled with information. So we were, just to give everybody, if you just signed on, we're in the process of talking to the school board candidates for the Newark school board election, which is being held this Tuesday, April 20th. The polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 8 o'clock p.m. And Jonathan, you're coming on, and we're asking people to get out and vote. My goal is at 8 o'clock 01 to see 100% of the persons in Newark come out and vote on Tuesday. Polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. Go ahead, John.
Yes, and actually, I wanted to reiterate that Yolanda Johnson was invited on. We wanted to have her on. I don't know what I'm not sure what the issue is. She was watching the show earlier. That's why we posted her comments. So we want all candidates, right? Come on, talk. Like, you talk to the people. We are going to make sure that you are heard, and we want to make sure that you are heard and your message gets out, right? Because civil civic discourse is incredibly important, right? We need to make sure.
One of our comments that just came up earlier. So perhaps, I know Mike is saying connectivity issues, but let me get back to the example you gave. Let me liken a school board election to your parent-teacher night. You have 100 students and only 3 parents show up. How's that feel?
Right. Well, it is one of those, as a teacher, it all depends, right? Like, as a teacher, we want to make sure that the parents who show up are the parents whose kids are always getting A's, right? They're the straight A student, parents there, right? The kid who is really struggling, having difficulties, you got to make sure you're reaching out and get in touch with them. And often they're not the ones that actually show up. So it is a thing, right? Like, you want to make sure that, especially the parents who you're trying to reach the kid, there are different ways you can work together, work as a team. You want to make sure that they show up even more. So that's just the teacher perspective. But that's
the perspective of the voters situation. The constituent that's having probably the most challenges is probably generally the constituent who doesn't show up and who doesn't ask questions and is not informed. And then the person who is taking advantages of everything that the municipality has to offer is probably the person that generally shows up. And that's what it's about, is being at the table and being ready to be engaged and involved in the process and holding those accountable, whether you are working with them or voting them in or out.
And we are going to have Phil Johnson come in at 8 o'clock, and we're going to have Nadira Brown also come in, and she'll be featured at 8:15. So we are having these candidates come on. We definitely wanted to have Yolanda Johnson on because we want to make sure that every candidate who is running has a place to talk, get your message out, let the people hear you, because a lot of times we just need places for civic discourse. So whether, doesn't matter whose team you're on, doesn't matter if we agree with your politics, it doesn't matter if we don't agree with your politics, we want you on having a voice to talk, because everybody needs to be involved in these conversations if we're going to do the things that we need to do for the people of our city. So it is now 7:54. We have a few minutes before we are going to get started with the next candidate coming in.
Jonathan, can you throw a little bit of question in there about the homicide legislation and see if anybody has a question?
Well, I want to make sure I give all the candidates the exact same questions,
Okay.
because, like, you know, they're running for office. I don't want to pop a question on one that I don't pop on another, right? And I want to give them a chance to talk about what they think are really important, because this is more like a forum. So it's like you as a candidate, I'm going to ask two questions that I think that embody the big lift, the heavy lifting, but I do want to make sure that the candidates have a chance to speak about what goes on, because, you know, no one individual candidate can do anything.
That's right. That'd be a majority.
Right. No individual elected member of the Board of Education can do anything. What we can find out about them tonight are what their priorities are, what their values are, what skill sets do they have, what is their life experience that they bring to the table to be able to do the skill sets that are of the elected Board of Education. That's why the questions, you know, we're like, hey, you know, you're going to be reading a lot of information. You're going to be doing a lot of different stuff. What helps you? What is there in your background that helps you be able to do that? And also, you know, the board is always contentious. There's always fighting. There's always conflict, right? Like, or there's often, right, fighting and conflict. There's a history of that, and there's a history of that goes back decades, right? And that's even when things are going really well, because democracy is often messy. Often, like, so it's not even that, like, I'm saying that, oh, they fight, there's conflict, there's dysfunction. I'm saying they fight, there's conflict, because that's democracy, right? That is how Congress works that way. I don't know of any elected body where everybody just gets along and everybody's just cool all the time, right? So we're making sure the candidates can bring who they are
right
to the voters.
And you know what? And if they and to your point, if they are just going along to get along, how productive is that for the people that they represent? So,
right. So how can you get along but still push your own agenda? How can you get along and actually do the things that you need to do for that? So we do have Yolanda Johnson just came on. We're going to have her on for just a few minutes because we do have to get to the next candidate. So Yolanda Johnson, hello. Thank you for coming on. We can only have you on for the next 4 minutes. But tell us, just very quickly, what is there in your background that will help you deal with large amounts of information in a short amount of time? And I'll throw the second question in as well, and you can choose how you answer it. How were you able to deal with conflict of people that you don't necessarily get along with to get legislation passed?
I work with people now who I don't get along with. It's not about personal opinions about one another. It's strictly about the work that's ahead of us. And if we can work toward that goal, then we can get something done together.
And so what about the first question? The first question was, there's a lot of reading, there's a lot of information that always has to be processed when dealing with the Board of Education. What is there in your background that allows you to deal with all of that information in a short amount of time?
I am a mother of 6 children. I am a parent. I work. I deal with that now. I sit on several committees for the school board. For the Board of Education. I work a full-time job and I run a full-time parent organization. And I am almost available 24 hours a day.
Great. And you have another minute. We have another minute to talk about anything that you want people to know about you so that they would vote for you. Like, why should people vote for you in this election?
Okay, so people should vote for me in this election because I have been from day one advocating on resources that we need and have been successful at many of the things that they have participated in behind the scenes, from the parent university to pre-K 3 and 4 classes to I am just engaged and embedded and invested in our school district. And normally when the superintendent have a question, he normally will consult with me to put together an idea or anything that they want to do concerning the families in the city of Newark. I would be the go-to person.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on. We very much appreciate you coming on, because as I said before, we want to make sure the candidates have the space to be able to get their positions heard. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
We have Phil Wilson, who is going to be running, who is running for the Newark Public Schools for a position on the elected Newark Board of Education. And as we said before, our goal is, and I think there's a lot of background noise right now. And so for a technical question, Phil Wilson, if you have headphones, that would be good. Or if you have anything else going on, then make sure that those things would be off.
Can you hear any extra noise in the background?
Not when you're, well, not anymore. So I think it's good right now.
Okay.
All right. So it is 8 o'clock. Thank you for coming on. We are happy to have you on for All Politics Are Local to talk about your run for the Newark Public Schools. The first question that we have for you is, given the large amount of information that every Board of Education person has to deal with in a very short amount of time, can you tell us what is there in your background, in your biography, that allows you to deal with a large amount of information in a short amount of time for the benefit of our Newark children?
Well, first of all, Phil Wilson, A4. I'm running for school board. Large information. I have wrote Perkins grant. I'm come from an auto collision background. So I have to do auto collision background writing grants. That's a lot of information. I was on dialysis. I did self-dialysis for myself. So you have to learn at a fast pace to able to do dialysis on your own. And medication. I received a kidney transplant, so I have to keep up my medicine every day. And information, I grasp the information very quickly because I'm an auto body instructor, and I run a full-time auto body shop for the largest Mannheim dealership in the country. So a lot of information that's given to me, I have to process it quick and act on it and be quick with it and be successful. I can't hear you.
Yes, I was actually muted. So thank you so much for your answer to that question. The second question that I would have for you is, given that one of the things that we have on the Board of Education, as in any elected body, is that people often don't get along but have to work together. There are people who don't get along with the community but have to work with various people within the community, right? So there are always these conflicts that happen. What is there in your background that would allow you to work with other people that you might not like, who might not like you, and be able to work on behalf of the best interest of our students?
Well, coming from the auto industry, it's all different people that have different ideas. We come together as one and get the idea done. What's the best solution? Everybody has a different idea of how to do this and do that and do that. Let's come with the best plan to work for our children and for the people community. That's my motto. Currently, I see the board is always 9-0. No one never has disagreement so far. If so, we don't see it. So I just think, as in, we have to come together, get to hear the people's voices, and react to that. Me, I will go to the community and see what they have to say to it. I will bring it back to my 8 board members and see what they have to say to it. And let's come into the middle. Let's get the job done.
All right, and thank you for your answer to that question. You have time left, so we want to make sure that please tell us more of what people should know about you that would make and a reason why they should vote for you for the elected member of the Board of Education.
Well, I think in 2021, the voice of Black fathers is essential to the Newark School Board. Help me bring back the voice of Black fathers back into the Newark Board of Education. I come from a CTE background. I'm the only candidate that is certified by the state of New Jersey, state of Maryland, state of Georgia to have CTE in my background. I am committed to bring CTE back into schools, from elementary schools all the way to high school. I believe a child working with their hands to have great success. If a child can work with their hands and the community, they could put more jobs back in the community. If you ride around the city of Newark, you see construction work, you see you see restaurants being built, and you see mechanic and body shops is open. During this pandemic, you've seen all this stuff going on. Home Depot never closes, Lowe's never closes. The mechanic shop, body shop never closed. Our children doesn't have this trade here in the city of Newark. If you look up UTI, which is University Technical Institution School, it's a trade school here in Bloomfield. If you go there for 13 months, you graduate and can be working at Mercedes-Benz making $60,000 plus. If our kids will learn a trade here in Newark public school system, they can leave Newark public schools without going to UTI spending $40,000, $50,000 for tuition to get that $60,000 job. If we have it here in Newark, then our kids will be successful. I think, our kids will have jobs instead of standing on the corner selling drugs and different things. I'm not saying all kids does that, but if they have a skill set when they leave high school, they'll be better off, I believe, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, you were talking in an acronym. Could you just tell the audience what CTE means?
I was going to ask the same question.
I'm sorry. CTE means Career Technical Education.
And why is career technical? Can you describe for me, like, because we don't necessarily know, what is career technical education and why is it so important to you to know it?
Career technical education has to do with everything. Meaning, as in, to me, you have plumbing, you have carpentry, you have welding, you have cosmetology, you have auto collision, auto mechanics. You have those set trades. So if your car breaks down, you have to take it to a mechanic shop. You get into you get into an accident, you have to take it to an auto body shop. If your house, your plumbing system goes bad, you have to call a plumber. Your electrician goes bad, you have to call an electrician. So these things, these kids will learn this stuff in high school. They can do these things, have a skill set, for future on. A welder makes $90,000 a year. A average auto body painter makes about $60,000. Mechanics makes about $50,000. So you have these skill sets that you can take on with you, not just on a corner. And that way, in my opinion, I would stop the pipeline of prison. These kids learn the trade in all schools, not just certain schools. I think every kid should learn the trade, starting in elementary school.
And you're saying that you think that every kid should learn a trade. I'm asking you these questions because you actually still have time. So I'm just asking to clarify stuff that you've already said and talked about. Why do you believe that every kid, like every child, should learn a trade?
Because college is not for every child. If you learn a trade, you can take that trade to college. So say, for instance, your daughter or son went to school for cosmetology, and they can do hair while they're at college. Or say, for instance, they learn auto mechanic work. While you're at college, your friend has cars. They drive. Instead of taking your car to a shop, you can fix the car right there on campus. Or you like I said, you look around the city of Newark, you see these things that's open, that's available. It's a shortage. It's a shortage of technicians, mechanics, welders, electric across the nation. And why not? You have Newark has everything. Has the airport. They have New Jersey Transit. You have all these places that's looking for technicians right out of high school. Why not do it?
You also said earlier that Black fathers were important. You still have a few minutes left. Why is it important to have the voice of a Black father on the Board of Education?
Because you don't really see Black fathers involved in kids unless it's with sports. I'm a Black father. I have 3 boys in Newark Public Schools. I have a daughter that's in Newark Public Schools. I sit on the PTO committee at my son's school, and you see fathers there, but sometimes you don't see fathers. Right now, Newark has no Black fathers on the Newark school board. So if you see a Black father on the school board, the fathers that are in the child's life or that are not in the child's life, like, oh man, we have a Black guy up there. He representing us as a father. I'm not taking nothing away from the gentleman that's on the school board, but he's not a father. So, I'm a father and put my children and the community kids first.
And so thank you. And you still have time. So is there anything else that you'd want to talk to us about that you believe is really important? Because I want to make sure that you have and use all the time that you have, and that people can hear from you.
Well, I think, like I said, CTE, career technical education, is important. You know, if you bring back home economics, students will learn how to cook, iron, probably use a washer and dryer, and balance a checkbook. It incorporates math, reading, and writing, and across curriculum. That's needed in school. Anywhere you go in this world, you need math. You know how to write. You know, if you can't read or write, you know, you lost in this world, in my opinion. Sorry, my children wants to get in the room with me, and I'm not letting them.
You look like you're in their room.
Yeah, I am. That was a
Okay.
quiet space. While he ran out the room, I ran in the room.
So you're doing your father thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for we're going to give you the last word. What is the final thing that you want to tell us?
Hey, listen, we need a change. The change we deserve, the change we need. Vote for Phil Wilson, A4. If you're tired of the board saying yes all the time and not getting no answers back, I'm here in the community. I've been in the community a long time. Like I said, a lot of people know me, but, you know, a lot of people don't want to vote for me because I speak my mind. I don't bite my tongue.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on All Politics Are Local and talking about why you should be on the Newark Public Schools. So thank you again for coming on, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so so Donna, these local elections are coming on, man. We want people to come out and vote because often there's not a lot of turnout in these local elections, and we want the turnout to be large. We want people to come out and vote. I always thought that if we had large turnout in local elections, if we had large turnout in our Newark Public Schools elections, we would have never gotten taken over by the state, because they would have known that we were very interested in that, and that if they actually messed with the Board of Education and they messed with that, they could actually endanger their own statewide positions. Like statewide elected officials usually thought that they could do what they wanted to Newark with impunity, not have to suffer any electoral consequences with it. And when you have like so many different people who actually come out to vote in governor's elections and Senate races and actually change those races, right? Phil Murphy would not be governor without that black vote in Newark, right? Without the Newark vote coming out in mass for him. And that's true in statewide races. It's got to be true for our kids as well. We're going to have Brown in just a few minutes. And she is here with us. So we would have had all the candidates for the Newark Public Schools on. So Donna, tell me again, like why is voting important in these school board elections?
All politics are local. Bring that. I just think that people have to be more prepared and be more proactive and not reactive. And what does that mean? Having a plan. Who are you voting for? Why are you voting? What time you're going to get to the poll? And the further plan is that after the candidate wins, my candidate or the candidate wins, how am I going to hold them accountable? There are X amount of school board meetings, every year. How many school board meetings am I going to show up to? How many questions am I going to ask? And, just being engaged. Oftentimes, and I know in our community, people are working, but we still have to collectively figure out if we have a block of people and maybe everybody can't go, we'll meet over at Jonathan's house, Mr. Austin's house. And, Mr. Austin, you're going to go to the meeting tonight and you're going to raise all of our questions. But we have to stay engaged and keep the pressure on so that persons know that we're watching them and that we're expecting them to do their job.
Now, we are getting ready to have our final candidate on for tonight, Nadira Brown. But before we do that, just very briefly, Donna, tell us about the Irvington elections, and because they have school board elections tonight too. We can't have all of these elections on Friday, but that is an important election coming up. Can you just give a brief plug for the Irvington elections, school board elections?
I'm going to do afterwards, because here's one thing about the school board elections. Some elections with school board elections, you can choose when the school boards are ran by the board itself, the local board, and not by the the county, they can do two things. They can choose to do an all-day election, which is from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., or they can do a half-day election. I have to go because at one point, Irvington used to do half-day elections. So I have to go out and see if they're doing a full day, and I'm going to let us know after the next person doing a wrap-up. But just like with the Newark elections, you have to come out and participate, whether the polls open at 6 a.m. or whether they open at 1 p.m. You still have to figure out how you're going to get to those polls and participate. And as we spoke to Councilman Awe last week, he stated that there's the provision that if you can't get to the polls on that day, you can go down to the Board of Elections and cast your vote. But as our next candidate, Nadira, talks, I'm going to go do that research real quick. Okay.
All right, great.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on. We are very honored to have all of the candidates who are running come on All Politics Are Local. As I said before, we believe in civic discourse. We want to make sure that if you are running for office, that the people get to hear from you to be able to make their decision. So
thank you for the invite.
you're very welcome again. We're going to start you off with a question that we've asked everyone else. One of the most important things about public schools and Board of Educations and really in politics in general, but definitely on the Newark Public School Board, is that you have to deal with a large amount of information in a short amount of time. There's like tons of reports, there are rules, there are all these things that every single candidate, every single actual elected member of the board has to deal with.
Yes.
What is there in your background? What is there in your biography that will let you deal with all of that information in such a short amount of time?
Actually, with my background, I actually work for an agency where my job deals with that every single day. There's updates, different information. My job is based on rules and regulations from the state. This is information that I'm responsible to give out to the community as well as my coworkers. So with my background, I'm able to get information short period of time, long periods of time, and get the information out. So I believe as a candidate, I have a strong background to handle that type of information because, as you stated, things change daily, every day, a turnover in a short time span, and sometimes we have a longer time span to get it out. And it's very important because we are dealing with a big population in the city of Newark.
Thank you for your answer to that question. And we have the next question that we're going to ask deals with the naturally contentious nature of all politics, but there is also, the contentious nature that sometimes happens at the Newark Public Schools, or in these circumstances. Anyone on the board is going to have to deal with people who don't like them, people who might talk about them, people that they might not like themselves. What is there in your background that allows you to deal and work together with various people who might not like you and who you might not like?
Well, actually, I deal with that every single day. I'm not here to name the agency that I work for, but we do not have a popular name always in the community. And when I say dealing with others, we can always agree to disagree, and there's going to be times that we agree. But the overall picture here is about the children. So we need to come together to discuss what we're going to do for the children going forward. It's not about opinions. It's not about what we feel. It's what we need to do for the future, for the children in this city.
And thank you for your answer to that question. You have time left, and we want to know what is there that the voters should know about you, and why you should be elected to the Newark Board of Education.
All right. Well, I want everyone to know, as you can see on the screen, my name is Nadira Brown, candidate A5. I want everyone to know that I am a candidate, but I'm also a parent. The reason that I joined this is because, especially with the pandemic coming in the last year, there has been a lot of concerns that us parents have that many don't realize. It's unfortunate that the state has taken over for over 20 years, and we want to make sure going forward that doesn't happen again. We need a strong board
that is working with the community, and we need to connect all the schools. I understand the board governs the public schools, but we need to look into public schools, private, charter, because guess what? We're one city, we're one Newark. And this is about the future of our children and about education. Because when did we start separating education? We need to bring it back together for everyone. During this pandemic, it has been revealed our city is struggling with certain things. For example, we have over 36,000 students in the public schools, but yet only about 26,000 Chromebooks were given out. Let's look at our education curriculum. Why weren't most of these children already learning in the school with the Chromebooks? You know, as a parent, very concerned that a year later, we're still discussing these things, especially with the problems of Wi-Fi and even just overall, just the curriculum of our school systems. We want our children to be the best and be offered the same resources that everyone else is being offered. And I say, many don't know me, but get to know me. I'm just not a candidate, but I'm also a parent. And I have concerns and I have the background where negotiating, meeting with others. We're not going to always agree, but at the end of the day, we're doing what's best for the children. So I ask everyone to come out on Tuesday. As you can see, this is a local election and it's not popularly being told. I ran into people today that didn't even know we were having an election on Tuesday. So I say, please spread the vote. We have 6 great candidates that are running. Pick the person that's best for you and realize this person will carry your voice going forward because it's about the children. It's not about us. Thank you.
And thank you. You still have more time, so I will ask you to elaborate on some things if you want to. If you want to use.
Yes.
So you talked about, and I'm only going to ask you about things that you've said, just so that you can elaborate on it. You talked about during the pandemic, and you said that there were problems with Wi-Fi and there were problems with Chromebooks. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Part of the problem with the Chromebooks, everyone didn't have access in the beginning. You know, there were times where we saw that some children were working off of paper packets. There were some children who still didn't receive the equipment. Another issue that we have, people were having connectivity problems. And that's when the issue with Optimum, which is mostly our only carrier, we also have Verizon, but we have a lot of problems with that in the area. And we're servicing a mixed community where there's mixed backgrounds. And what I mean by that, as far as your income eligibility. And a lot of people were not eligible for the free programs. And even the free programs that were being promoted weren't really being offered. And at the same time, the children were suffering. So imagine being home, it's already a change, and then they're falling behind in their schoolwork. And it's a year later, and we're still discussing this. And another issue that I found out while being a candidate, the North Board does no longer have an IT department. Now, I'm not here to talk about their budget and why did they take away that department, but they need to bring them back because right now IT is very important, especially since we're working remote right now. Thank you.
All right, and thank you. And for the last, because you actually still have more time,
okay.
I will give you the final say in terms of what do you want? What is there a final message that you have for people when they come out to vote?
Yes, I would love for everyone to come out and vote and make your own choice. There are 6 great candidates, and also there's another race going on for the 1-year term. Make sure you pick the best candidates for you. Also, make sure you answer the question as far as the vote. And whether or not I'm elected or not, please make the next board accountable. Don't be afraid to go to the meetings. Don't be afraid to speak out. Please, it's time to get your voice to be heard. Before, it was probably hard for many individuals because we're very busy to get to the meetings, but now everything is on Zoom. And I ask the community, please make everybody that you put into office accountable for their actions. And please take out the time to vote on Tuesday, the 20th. Nadira Brown, A5. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on. Honored to have you. Honored to have all the candidates on because these elections are really important. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and can't wait to find out the results on Tuesday.
Right. Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so Donna, we're gonna bring in Zaid. We're gonna bring in everyone who is here, and talk first about what you talked about the Irvington elections, and then we can get into early into the other parts of the last part of the program. So, talk to us, Donna. What's going on with what was going on?
I'm gonna let Zaid, because I'm still just doing the research. So Zaid, you go ahead, and I'm just pulling some stuff up in Irvington.
All right, Zaid, and I want you to talk about education and these elections. And you were talking about Amistad earlier. So tell me, why do you think these local elections are important? And then we're going to go right into the last part of the show. Zaid? Oh, well,
I didn't realize I was muted. One of the things that I hope happens with the regaining of our school board and with the streets being hot around other political issues, right, is that a new generation, and I'm not just talking about young folks, but I'm talking about a new generation of parents. The new generation comes to terms with the real question of the importance of civil engagement, right? Boards of education are at the cutting edge of what communities' futures look like or going to look like. They are very important to appreciate and to engage, right? And they're not to be looked at as they have been in conventional old backdoor politics, where as mere stepping stones for somebody to go somewhere else. We should not tolerate that in a fully engaged democracy. We want folks who represent the best interests of our children, and the best interest of the future of our community as a consequence of how those children are educated, right? That's what's at stake here. Now, I'm a Newark parent that can't vote in an election because I don't reside in Newark. I'm registered in East Orange, right? So I'm like really frustrated that I can only do but so much as a parent who lives outside of the voting area, you know. But I'm deeply concerned about how this goes down. I've been involved in that fight for getting the control of the school board back for decades. That was a fight that was, I mean, the degree of destruction of what that meant to the destabilization of our community, and the community having its own place to determine its own fundamental destiny for over a generation is something that need not be taken lightly, right? And was the well-being of our children at the heart of the takeover the school? Oh, hell no, it wasn't. It was the lion's share of those resources and having carte blanche control of them because that community wasn't organized the way they should have been to be able to protect those resources for the well-being in the community. That's a conversation a lot of folks don't want to have, but it's that important. It's like that old axiom: you use it, or you will lose it. And we lost it for more than two decades here in the city of Newark. We should be on top of this thing like no other community, because it's in our hands to do something really different, do something special based on what we had to go through to get it back.
Thank you so much, Zaid. We really wanted to make sure that we had this education focus. We have these elections going on. We're getting ready to jump right into DJ Rhino and the state of hip hop. But right before we do that, Donna, do you have any update on the Irvington election?
No, you know what? That frustrates me. I'm Googling Irvington, New Jersey, and it's not clear on their information. And that's what I mean about being engaged, is that we should, when election is happening, that information should be right before our eyes. I shouldn't have to go searching for it, looking at corners and
Right.
everything for the information. And it's not there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm looking, but I don't see that it is available. I see that Irvington and Newark are both having their school board election on. It's still being it's still held locally at the district. So that means Irvington is handling their election and Newark is handling their election. But I cannot see the specifics. But as we talk with DJ Rhino, I will continue to do the research.
All right, thank you. Welcome, DJ Rhino, the best DJ in the whole universe.
Ride, Rhino, ride.
Come on, man. You there?
He just froze. Yeah, there you go.
We can hear you.
You hear me?
Can't really see you. You're a little frozen up.
All right, you hear me though?
We can hear you now. You're fading in and out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So first off, I want to start off with just saying happy anniversary to Newark, Brick City's own Artifacts. Artifacts, that's Tame One, MCL, rest in peace to DJ Chaos. They come out of Brick City, Newark. You know what I'm saying? Their second album came out April 27th of 1997. Or I could be wrong about the day, but it was April of 1997. So 24 years ago. Matter of fact, the 16th is the anniversary. So April 16th, 1997, Artifacts, That's Them album. That was their second album that came out 24 years ago. I actually got a song on there with my man Tame One. It was a solo cut on there. It was called Ingredients to Time Travel. It's song 13 on the album, Ingredients to Time Travel. Check it out when you get a chance. But happy anniversary to the Artifacts, Brick City legends. They came out during the time when Brick City and Jersey was really getting on strong in hip hop, during the time where it was Naughty was strong, Latifah was already an icon at the time, Redman was coming out strong, Lords of the Underground, Outsiders, it was just Fugees, everybody was coming out from Jersey at that time. So I want to big ups Artifacts, man. You know, they still going on strong. They got a new album that's coming out, produced by Buck Wild, who used to be a super producer in hip hop. They got a new album coming out called No Expiration Date. So just big ups to the Artifacts and happy anniversary to their second album. The next thing I want to go into real quick, real fast. I don't know if you guys any of you seen the verses with Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isley Brothers?
Oh yeah, everybody saw that. They saw that and learned how we were born. Yeah.
I couldn't see it. No, I missed it. You know, but that's
man, that was so good, man. And I was telling people that was.
Hey DJ,
that was such it was a. All right, that was just. I'm just saying that was just a great long lasting verses between the two of them. You know, it stuck with me for like a week or so, and then other people said the same thing. It just stayed with them because it took you back to all of the greatest times. You know, some people had an issue with Steve Harvey hosting or him talking too much, but to me, it made sense him being the host, and it made sense for him to ask the questions that he asked because. You know, you want to kind of get that information from artists like that. Those dudes are beyond icons, man. They're beyond legends. You know what I mean? They're like gods to us. You know what I mean? Earth, Wind and Fire and Isley Brothers. So, you know, salute to both of the bands. Salute to everybody. Rest in peace, Maurice White. Rest in peace to all of the brothers from the Isleys that are no longer here and from the Earth, Wind and Fire that's no longer here. But it was a beautiful thing for me. I loved it, and it stayed with me, and it stuck with me. Speaking of verses, go ahead.
I was going to say, what did that mean in terms of hip hop to you, right? I
was going to ask.
What does that mean
in terms of hip hop? Okay, well, the reason why I bring it up is because we got to remember hip hop sampled and took from everybody. We took from all genres. I was talking to my wife just last night about it. How we took from go-go, we took from rock and roll, we took from disco. We took from jazz. You know, hip hop sampled and used every genre that came before it. You understand what I'm saying? So when we talk about Earth, Wind and Fire and Isley Brothers, there's a lot of stuff that's been sampled by Earth, Wind and Fire, and sampled from Earth, Wind and Fire and Isley Brothers. You know, by hip hop, we've sampled so much music from those groups. You know what I'm saying? As well as other bands. You know. We talking about P-Funk and Kool and the Gang, James Brown, this brother right here. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's why I bring that up because, you know, hip-hop is not just rapping and hip-hop and scratching. It's about what made us, you know, our roots. And our roots comes from a James Brown, a P-Funk, Earth, Wind and Fire, Isley Brothers. You know what I'm saying? that's why I bring that up in a hip hop segment, because that's what they mean to us. You know, we grew up on, my generation. I'm a 70s baby. I was born 1970. You know what I'm saying? And I grew up on Earth, Wind and Fire and Isley Brothers. And so watching that, like I said, it lasted long for me after it went off. It lasted about a good week or more, because those songs meant so much for me. You know what I mean? Growing up. And that's why I bring it up in the hip hop segment.
All right, man. You were getting ready to jump onto something else.
Yeah. So speaking of verses, Redman and Method Man are about to do a verses, which is crazy. A lot of people will wonder, well, how they gonna do that? They got so many songs together. But they said the same thing about Ghostface and Raekwon. And Ghostface and Raekwon was one of the most fun and enjoyable verses that we've had recently. I love the Raekwon and Ghostface verses. They had songs that they did together, but they had, had their own stuff too. And it was just enjoyable. It was funny. You know what I mean? It was just, it was just a good time watching Raekwon and Ghostface. And I believe that's what we're going to get from Redman and Method Man coming up. I'm not sure the date. I can't give you the date right now, but it's coming up soon. So definitely just keep your eyes on Versus. That's VERZU. Hold on. Yeah. VERZUZ. Versus. And just look for it on. You can look for it on Instagram. Look for it on YouTube. Look for it on Facebook. They're always gonna have updates and letting you know what's going on and who's coming next, what the next verses is gonna be. But look out for that Redman and Method Man, because I'm sure it's gonna be fun.
Didn't they even do movies together?
Yeah, they did How High together. They did How High. They did the Month of the Man tour. That's really where it started with the label, because they were label mates. They were on Def Jam, and Def Jam, Russell Simmons, they put them together. Yeah, Redman, Method Man, the whole Man thing. So they just had the Month of the Man and had a tour together, and blew up everywhere they went. They blew it up, and so they ended up becoming a group. They had the song How High, that became their whole thing, and then How High became a movie, and they just became icons, man. You know what I'm saying? And did their thing. So big ups to Redman, that's Brick City's legend icon. Big ups to Method Man, that's Wu-Tang icon, Staten Island. And that's what it is, man. So look out for that, because like I said, it's gonna be fun. Because like I said, they got songs together, but then they got their own stuff too. So that's gonna be enjoyable. You know what I mean? Also, the next thing I want to get into real quick, LL Cool J. Somebody made a statement. I'm not sure if it was an article or something. Somebody made a statement about LL Cool J being the godfather of pop rap or pop hip hop or whatever, and he caught feelings behind that. He caught feelings. He caught some feelings about being called pop, I guess, And I was just telling my man G recently that, when you talk about somebody being pop, like this, the word pop is short for popular. So if you're nationally or internationally popular, then you're pop. But our generation comes from a time where our perspective of that term pop, where we look at it as it means corny music or corny teeny bopper crossover kind of music. You know what I mean? And so we kind of look down on the term pop. So if you call me pop, I'm going to feel offended. And I feel like LL felt offended about being called the godfather of pop rap. So I understood where he was coming from, but I also understand where somebody would call him that, because LL comes from the early mid 80s, where he got to a point where he did even before he did I Need Love, he had songs that were going to girls. I Need Love was just the one that crossed over, and then once he crossed over, he was known as the MC that would do the hard hip hop b-boy raps, but then also do the stuff for the ladies. You know what I'm saying? And so he had that crossover appeal, and then he became popular behind that crossover appeal. So he is pop to a sense. He's a popular rapper. You know what I'm saying? We all love LL, and he's a huge icon. So of course he's pop. But I wouldn't say that he's pop in the negative sense, where he's corny and doing teeny bop.
Right.
You know I mean? Right. He's not soft at all. We don't see him. And I was saying that as same thing with 50 Cent, same thing with Snoop Dogg. These dudes stayed to their core of what they do, but they've crossed over to where the whole entire globe loves them and gives them and shows them that respect. You know what I'm saying? So on that tip, they are pop, but in a good sense. They're not pop in the sense that they're corny and doing something else. So there's ways. It's all about perception, really. It's about how you look at it, how you perceive the term. And I can look at the term both ways because I understand where LL's coming from. I might not want to be called pop either. You know what I mean? Knowing where I come from, but at the same time, I understand the mentality of where that that perception would come from. Also, real quick, I want to say happy birthday. The reason why I got this shirt on, James Brown, because I don't have a Cool Herc shirt. That's why. Cool Herc. When I do the shirt thing, usually I like to get people's logos. I don't really do too many faces on my shirts and stuff, even though I got James on this joint. But it's a classic. But I was looking for a Cool Herc logo, but he doesn't have a set logo, man. Our pioneers, man, didn't have that kind of thing going on back in the day. So I don't have a Cool Herc shirt yet. But so I was wearing James Brown because James Brown, Give It Up or Turn It Loose, the live version, was one of the main joints besides Apache by Incredible Bongo Band and other songs, The Mexican by Babe Ruth, Scratching by the Magic Disco, is Magic Disco Band, something like that. Like these are all records, break beats that started hip hop, that started the break dancers and the break beat thing, and the DJs going back and forth on the turntables, running the breakdown on a record. James Brown was definitely one of those records. Give It Up, Turn It Loose. And Cool Herc was the one to bring that into his parties. And, Sedgwick Avenue, where he first started his recreation center parties with the people in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? You just come through, throw joints on like this James Brown joint and those other joints that I just mentioned. And he created the whole break beat, the whole B-boy flavor. You know what I'm saying? That started the hip hop culture. And so we want to say happy birthday. He was the seed. He was the godfather of this culture. So we want to say happy born to Cool Herc. And it almost seems like that means nothing because we owe him so much, as a culture. We owe Cool Herc and Flash and Theodore and Bambaataa. We owe them so much more than just saying, congratulations, happy birthday, happy this, whatever. But we're gonna salute Cool Herc, man. He's the godfather of our culture and everything that I stand for. So big ups to Cool Herc. Last but not least,
do you know if they ever got a chance to actually financially capitalize on all that is hip hop, billion-dollar industry that they helped create, right? Originate. Did they ever get a chance to reap the benefits of that? Can you talk about that?
Nah. From what I understand, from what I know, slowly but surely, like when hip hop started to become a $1 million business, a $1 billion business, these icons just started to get their respect. So as they're just starting to get their respect, they're just starting to get crumbs. You know what I'm saying? They're just starting to get their crumbs and their little bit of pay and their little bit of, you know what I mean? It's almost like picking up where they left off. You know what I mean? Wherever it was they left off in the beginning when they were pioneers doing their thing, Sugar Hill Records and Enjoy Records, or even before that with the tapes, whatever little change they was getting back then, it's almost like they picked up from where they left off there and they just started making it. So, you'll see a commercial with Flash or with Herc or with whoever and this, that, and the other. You'll see this, that, and the other where, they're getting their endorsements and they're getting money here and there. But, I mean, no, these dudes are not what they should be. They're not as rich as they should be for what this culture is today. You know what I'm saying? Somebody like Cool Herc and Bam and Flash and Theodore and all these cats, nah, these dudes should be zillionaires, trillionaires behind what hip hop has done and what hip hop has become. So nah, they haven't gotten that. To answer your question.
Thank you, man. I know you were going to jump on to something else right there, right now. So
yeah. So the last thing right now, I was going to get into, because I know we was going to get into something deeper, man. So I'm going to end it on this. You know, once again, you know, rest in peace to our brother DMX, Earl Simmons. Rest in peace and condolences to his family. I just wanted to mention the fact that, you know, he did release, he did finish recording an album. I don't have the title of the album yet, but he did finish recording an album. It's got a lot of heavy hitters on the album. From what I hear, man, you know, he's really, you know, he really put his foot in this project, man. You know, just trying to, you know, he was X on his comeback. He was really trying to come back and do his thing, man. He was coming hard. They just released a song that was used in what's it called, Gangsta of Harlem or something like that? Gangsta of Harlem, which is about Nicki Barnes, and we got which is starring Forrest Whitaker, and on the soundtrack there's a song with DMX, Swizz Beats, and French Montana. Yeah, Godfather of Harlem, that's what it's called. But the song is called "Been to War," something like that. But check it out, because you know it's just good to hear X on this thing. And there's another joint out there that's on. I wish I had the title of it, but just check out YouTube and look out for some recent DMX. DMX was really on his comeback. He was really trying to come back hard, and just he was trying to get focused, man. So that's why I don't always fall into, you know, the whole you know, talk about, you know, he OD'd and that's what happened with his heart attack and all that. I don't know all the details, but you know, I would rather get those details before I start believing any of that stuff. You know what I mean? But rest in
right now with you're saying with
DMX.
Are you saying right now with DMX, it's all just rumor right now?
It's a lot of rumors, man. There's so much talk right now behind whether he died, behind whether his heart attacks were related to vaccines, whether his heart attacks were related to an OD situation with drugs. You know, there's a lot of talk. It's a lot of talk.
And even
you know,
even the rumors about Jay-Z and them buying their masters, those were rumors as well.
Yeah, that was a rumor that was a rumor that got called out there too. Because I even believed that for a second when I first saw it.
Exactly.
You know, I thought, you know, they were talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce, you know, was getting his master, and I was like, oh, word, that's peace, that's word, that's, you know, I was like, word. But then, you know, later down the line, you find out that was just, you know, somebody made that up and it just got around. So that's the thing about social media and just media in general. It's really difficult. I was talking to my wife the other day. It's really difficult to get your information, because where you're getting it, man, you really got to know your sources. You really got to know your sources, because you don't know what information you're getting and where you're getting it, where they're getting it from, and where you're getting it from. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're not there, if you're not a part of it, if you're not in it, if you're not one of the people that's involved, you really don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you really need to know your sources. Otherwise, man, you know, you can be getting all kinds of information that ain't right.
But here's the one thing we do know: we're in our next part of our lives, and we need to eat right and be healthy, because we're not 18 no more. So I know that, we got to drink green drinks and stuff now. You know, it's you know,
yeah.
We gotta think about our health. Yeah.
Well, let me ask the $1 million question. Let me be the OG, right? Ronald, what's your favorite joints by Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Isley Brothers? Let's have some fun.
My favorite joints by Earth, Wind, and Fire. How many do I get for each? How many do I get for each? Just one for each?
No, do be comfortable. You know, this your show.
Man, Earth, Wind, and Fire, bro. Oh man, I can tell you right now, off the hand, Earth, Wind, and Fire for me. Earth, Wind, and Fire, right off the hand. Devotion, Fantasy, Shining Star, Evil. People don't even think about Evil. Evil was a bad song.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, man, like Earth, Wind, and Fire. What was that? 4 joints. And then you know what I'm gonna say. Oh, see, my man throwing out the other jams. Yeah, see, they got slow jams and stuff that I'm so into, man. But I'm gonna throw out September, because that's my month. I was born September. So out there too. All right, so Isley Brothers. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say, don't say goodnight That don't say goodnight. I'm gonna say
singing,
Voyage to Atlantis. Voyage to Atlantis was my joint. Of course, Between the Sheets, Choosy Lover. Oh man, there's so many with Osley's, man. Osley's, I mean, Fight the Power, but that was a connection with Public Enemy for me. But I mean, Osley's got so many, bro. Yeah, Here We Go Again, Harvest for
Harvest for the World.
I was just so caught up in. I watched that versus like 3 times, and you know, people that were trying to hate on Steve Harvey, I was like, who else was going to do it? Jamie Foxx, Snoop, who else was going to host? Like, Steve Harvey was the main dude. I felt like would do that, should do that. You know what I mean? And it was only right that he asked questions because real fans want to hear the backstory of these songs. You know what I mean? You want to hear that. So, you know, I didn't have no problem with Steve Harvey.
He's a big fan of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Steve Harvey even did the foreword to their book. So he was probably a natural choice.
Yeah, it was only right to me. But I enjoyed it, man. I loved it so much.
You don't think Steve Harvey talked too much?
No, I didn't. Not for that. I didn't. I know a lot of people were saying that he was talking too much. I really didn't see that. I didn't see it like that. Because I mean, he of course he's a comedian, so he brought the comedy to it, but he also brought the feeling to it because a lot of the stuff he was feeling, a lot of their fans was feeling too. You know what I mean? So it was like, you know, hey man, I enjoyed it. It was cracking me up because they kept calling D Nice nice. He was like, "Come on, nice." He kept leaving the D out. Come on, nice. But nah, that was a beautiful verses, man. It was a beautiful verses. I loved it. Yeah.
Did you post it on All Politics?
But that's all I got, y'all, man. That's hip hop for me, man. You know.
All right. Well. Thank you. I said thank you a lot, DJ Rhino, man. Oh, Donna, what were you saying?
Did you post the verses? Did you post it on All Politics, a local page?
I'm gonna put it all up.
Okay.
I think I may have. Oh no, I didn't post it on the All Politics Local. No, I gotta post it on All Politics Local.
So real quick, guys, I want you to know I was watching. You know, there are different games. Everybody play games, and especially being home, games are coming out. And I came across this game called Culture Tags. You know, we're in the culture tag hashtag da-da-da-da-da. And hashtags are big. And this game, and they got different topics. And like this topic is words to live by. Hashtag PPPP. We're going to have to play this one day. What do you think? And so what do you think that means? Hashtag PPPP.
Don't die of COVID?
No, the words PPPP, John.
Personal protection, something, PP, C, whatever.
So we're going to do
this. We need
to
get out of COVID, so Donna can come up with these crazy games.
Is it supposed to be like an acronym?
So you got to think.
It's an acronym. When you were talking about older and health, you're talking about old men's bladders?
No, you think it, but think of PPP, you think of Twitter. And so it's a great game. It's called hashtag Culture Tag. So what is hashtag PPP? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. We're gonna have to. This is a great game. I seen it. They were doing. You gotta do like they were advertising to doing Martin and all of that stuff. It's an excellent game. And you know, in the time of COVID, one of the things that's great that has come out is people have gotten back into doing basic things like games and eating dinner at the table and things like this. And this is a great game. So we're gonna talk about it next week. So it's an awesome game. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So. I did want to give Zaid some chance to. I know we're not going to be able to get fully into it at all, right? But there were some recent developments that dealt with Mumia, and I know that I know you've been wanting to talk about it for a long time. This is real sad. We talked about it somewhat with the mayor, but Zaid, I'm just going to give it to you.
The mayor mentioned the 2 political prisoners that are important to talk about: Sundiata Acoli and Mumia Abu Jamal. And one of the things that the mayor was getting at is a whole question of importance of, I would say, not skipping steps in organizing campaigns, right? And campaigns not just being elections. One of the things that and it's just some of us within the human rights community, on the Black community have had within our circles, right? There was a time when almost we had a lot of Puerto Rican political prisoners that were facing some heavy charges, sentences up to 70 years and whatnot. They the way the character of the campaign of the Puerto Rican community was very detailed, very to the letter, didn't miss steps, got things done, and they got all their political prisoners out. And some of those things were things that a lot in our forces on the nationalist side simply did not want to do. They didn't feel the need to do this. That's one of the things that the mayor was talking about, and he was right. And then I'm one of the unpopular Panther Cubs because I'm one of the kind of raise those kind of questions when folks don't want to have those discussions sometimes. So, but we need to really look at those things. But to right to Mumia's case, Mumia was supposed to go under emergency heart surgery. He has 3 blockages in his heart, right? So he's going to have the surgery was put off. There's still a lot of questions about proper communication between his lawyer, his doctors, and his family. But that surgery is looming and it's very important. And again, is having COVID, having congestive heart failure, having diabetes, and having a dangerous open skin condition and whatnot at 66 years old isn't enough. He's got these 3 blockages that are kind of blockages that'll take you the hell out of here. If you know anything about, what leads to heart attacks, Mumia is in a very delicate space, right? So the call is still for him to be released. He's an aging prisoner, right? Medically compassionate release, posing no threat to society whatsoever. You want to sort out the question of innocent or guilt afterwards, we can do that. But his best treatment is his freedom. That's the line that we have been saying, right? April 24th is going to become even more important now because of these dangerous turns with his health. April 24th will be his 67th birthday, right? And we're going to shut Philadelphia down that afternoon for his birthday. This international campaign that has been responsible for keeping him alive is still very much in full swing, and there's a whole new generation we're going to get ready to unleash, on state forces too, because we're not giving up until we get him free. Sundiata Acoli, we've had folks on around Sundiata recently in his campaign, and we went through the same thing. And Sundiata is a Jersey captive, right? But he's not from Jersey. So there's always been some logistical issues also with organizing around his case. But there's some interesting things coming up that are beginning to happen for Sundiata because folks are starting to look at those things to do that folks didn't want to do in previous years, like organize certain sectors of our community to be involved in this, like our clergy and whatnot. And I don't want to get into too much detail because we want to do this in a way so that it makes its impact as we go along. But Sundiata, 84 years old, 48 years in prison, but was approved for parole, years ago, right? But because of the arbitrary dimensions of parole in this country, not just in New Jersey, of parole in this country, where they can, even if you've done your time, you can still be denied release because they don't think you're ready.
Yeah, we
arbitrarily do that.
We actually have to have a show on that because, when they were talking about why Mumia's not been released, and then why other political prisoners and other people are not released, there's a lot of questions about what does life mean, right? And if you don't get life without possibility of parole, can they just de facto still give you life without possibility of parole?
That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. We've lost several. I have a comment that I want to bring on sooner than later. And he was supposed to come on last week, but then he got his schedule mixed up.
Right. And I know we're reaching
Fitzgerald.
Right. And we're reaching the end of tonight's program. So I just want to make sure we wrap up. But I know that we need to actually do a show on parole, right? Because
we just lost Fitzgerald 52 years in. He was cleared for parole back in 1976.
And there needs, and you're talking about a need for a larger organizing. And that's absolutely it, right? So we have pretty much reached the end of tonight's show. That is a topic that we are going to have people back on and just talk about the issue of parole. And as we close out, I just want to bring in Donna. I want to bring in DJ Rhino. to talk about like what are some of the things what is the last thing, and just really briefly, what are some things that are coming up next week or coming up soon that we should know about? We have 2 minutes left, so this is real brief.
I know, Zay. So when you come to yours, did he have the surgery today? And
no, the surgery hasn't happened yet.
Okay. And then if you, well, I guess next Friday we can talk about the rally Saturday. But we know about Stewart's Soul Food Restaurant in Newark. Today, Mr. Stewart passed away. So rest in peace, Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
He passed away today. And then Dr. and from Seton Hall.
Judy Miller.
Well, Dr.
Judy Miller, she was a legend.
Okay,
she held the Africana Studies department together for years, right? Straight out of Brooklyn, right? She was also the better half of a power couple that included her husband, the late great landscape and muralist Don Miller, right? Powerhouse Judy Miller. She lived to be in her early 90s, right? She was an important educator in the Black scholars Africana Studies tradition at Seton Hall for a long time.
Okay. So I just wanted to also, so rest in peace, Mr. Stewart, and also Dr. Kwame and Connor from the International Relations at Seton Hall passed away as well. And I think his services will be tomorrow. But I was going to ask Dr. Harris if he can come and talk about him next week. But a lot of great food at Stewart's restaurant. So rest in peace to Mr. Stewart. Thank you.
And DJ Rhino.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Hold on. You're up. Yes. Now you're back.
I was going to say, as far as next week, I was just going to say, just original hip hop. We're going to bring some original hip hop to you. You know, some local stuff, some original things.
Right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. That's the end of our show this evening. All Politics Are Local, America's number one.
Jonathan, I am sorry. Irvington's Board of Election is on Tuesday. The polls at Irvington are only open from 2 to 8, and that's what I was trying to explain.
Wow, only from 8?
Yeah, it's from 2 p.m. So yeah, you can do either way. So Irvington is school board election is on Tuesday, but the polls are open from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And of course, and you can vote in person, or you can vote. It's only in person or not?
That I don't know, but I'm sure the provision is there. You can go down to the Board of Elections and still vote. Yes.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much. All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. That is all for this week. Thank you for all our guests. Thank you to the mayor for coming on. We always love having him on, and we always learn a lot. Thank you so much for all the Board of Education candidates for agreeing to come on. We had every single running for the Newark Public Schools. And yes, we're going to have to do Irvington. We got to do these other local elections as well. So that's just really important. So thank you so much. And until next week, good night.
You don't